You can make it in KSP, though. Well, sure. Sure you could. KSP, we're going to get back into Kerbal. We're going to go KSP Weekly Challenge 3. Yeah, guys, I mean, part of what I've learned from doing a stream about stuff, about rockets, and guide, you know, like something that's kind of something you shouldn't talk about too much is I make sure that I adhere to all ITAR standards, just like any other company would. Like, there are just certain parts you just don't talk about. Yeah, that's just don't ask, don't tell stuff, you know what I mean? And I make sure to steer clear of that as best as I can. What's the best orbit for a KSP space station? What are you trying to do, Echo? I mean, I've seen the Air Force violate their own laws multiple times by posting pictures of stuff they shouldn't on Twitter. But the thing is I don't say which stuff is you shouldn't post. I did it once, and I'm like, nope, not showing that. Anything published is open and free to use. That's correct. Yep. Juno's, yeah, Wing. Juno's a good game. That's a cool game. Yeah. Kerbal is my first, you know, like I'm a Kerbal player through and through, but Juno's cool. Basically just a research station for Kerbals, nothing super special. Okay, Echo. So you want to build just a research station. There's no particular orbital requirements. So, Echo, were you here yesterday during the Rocket Lab stream when I was talking about equatorial versus polar launch sites? Were you here for that by any chance? I thought I saw you in chat, but I don't remember. Yeah, Sawyer. Yeah, Cody's. Yeah, they are watching. They will watch. So I make sure to adhere to all ITAR and OPSEC laws as best as I can, because that's super important to pick up about. You were okay. So Echo, what did I say? What did I say? What'd I say? You'd be in here regurgitating Gordon Wood, but you forgot about Vickers. No, I just read Vickers, so I'm up on inherited wealth hunting. No, what? Okay, so what's good about an equatorial launch site? And what's good about a polar launch site? Hello, we see you have 10,000 hours at KSP. What exactly are you trying to achieve? Magic. No, Alleviate. Like I said, sometimes I point it out, but most of the time, if I see a picture, I'll just know that that's not what you should show, and I won't show it on stream and won't bring it up. Because that's the best way to do that. Because if I bring it up, then people are going to go look at it. I'm not going to tell you what you should and shouldn't look at. Me not telling you what you should and shouldn't look at is a better way to adhere to ITAR than anything, right? Because if I say don't look at it, you're going to. Trust me, I've been a streamer for a long enough time to know that if I say don't do something, chat will do the opposite of it. Polar launch sites are easier for getting into high inclined orbits and the opposite for equatorial orbits. Okay, that's right, Echo. Where is KSC? In Kerbal 1 and Kerbal 2. What is KSC close to? Is it closer to the poles or is it closer to Kerbin's equator? A lot of you guys know. It's on the equator. So where do you think, if your space station doesn't have any particular orbital requirements, but your launch site is on the equator, what would be the best orbit? This is not a trick question. It's not a trick question at all. Rocket science is complicated enough. You don't need trick questions. Bob, 30-month resub. Abrico. Thanks. Zero inclination. There's your orbit for your space station. There you go. I could have just told you 0 degrees inclined, just follow the equator, but now it makes sense given you were here yesterday for what I explained, right? Well, tell that to my professor. The only reason the ISS, for instance, Echo, is in a crazy inclined orbit is from the other part of that conversation. It's in a crazy inclined orbit so the Russians, us, the Japanese, and the Europeans can all get at the ISS from our home launch sites. The U.S. doesn't need to use Russia to get to the ISS. Asterisk that, but we could launch stuff to the ISS from Cape Canaveral, or the Russians can launch from Baikonur, or the Japanese can launch from Tanegashima, or the Europeans can launch from Kourou. That's why the ISS is in that weird inclined orbit. Hey, Keembop, welcome to Mission Control. You're going throttle up. Now, the reason why I say asterisk that is because after we stopped flying the space shuttle, which was stupid, after we stopped flying the space shuttle, we had to use Baikonur to get to space because we didn't have our own rocket until Dragon came along. And those were my formative years of learning about space. I decided I wanted to be a spaceflight fan literally at the lowest point in spaceflight history in 50 years. No way to get into space. When the space shuttle was retired in 2011, NASA had a way to get into space since 1962. A way to launch people into space. With the exception of the 5-year gap between Apollo-Soyuz test project and the space shuttle. Yeah. Oops. Wing, 4-month resub. Thank you. So, Echo, you want a 0 degree incline station because KSC in Kerbal is on the equator. It's right on the equator. So putting something in equatorial orbit means you're basically always in a launch window to get to said station. Now, if you want a challenge, then put it in an inclined orbit. Now you have launch windows. That's added difficulty. If you're just trying to be, if you're not that advanced of a Kerbal player, put it around the equator. Even in my more complicated saves, dude, I still put my space stations on the equator because it's easier to get to. Why do I need to make it inclined? There's no requirements for that. Except that if you want it as a challenge. We have a tentative late April Starship OFT. We saw that tweet yesterday. Yeah, it's April 20th, man. Would Woomerang equal Baikonur in KSP? No, it's closer to Kodiak. All right. Kerbal time? Kerbal time. Turns out that you can't drive into the parking garage anymore. There's a thread on the forums demanding it get fixed, and Dakota replied with looking into it. When they say the technology we use to get into space doesn't exist anymore, is that just because it's just outdated and not worthwhile, or we legit can't reverse engineer it? So, Steven, you're talking about the argument where people say, why don't we just remake the Saturn V? Like that, right? Just to make sure we're on the same page here. I like to establish base criteria before I give a response. So, why can't we remake the Saturn V? The truth of the matter is, we could remake the Saturn V. We could remake the Saturn V nowadays, and it'd probably be better than the original Saturn V because manufacturing has gotten a lot better. With the way we manufacture things with CNC machines, etc., it's way better. Now, here's the thing. That is also the reason why people say, oh, we wouldn't be able to rebuild that. Because if you think about it, when the Apollo program came around, there was no machine automation. So the systems that were used at the time to make the Saturn V and make it work wasn't necessarily on a CAD file, right, that you could put into a CNC machine and just make the part again. The institutional knowledge for manufacturing parts for the Apollo program was in the machinists' heads of how to machine a part. Not all of that information was written down. So, because not all that information was written down, you can look at a blueprint of something and you could look at the actual thing, right? And we could try to manufacture the parts again, but we wouldn't know exactly what how the machining was done. Right? Now, that is not to say that we couldn't figure that out. Oh, we could absolutely figure that out. You have a real-life example. There are still Saturn Vs around, and you have the blueprints. Right? But not every single part. Saturn V had thousands of contractors across the entire United States. There were people everywhere making parts for this thing. Getting all of that institutional knowledge, especially this far out, most of the people that work, some of the people that worked on the Apollo program aren't with us anymore, right? Getting all of that knowledge and figuring out how every single part was machined and figuring out what parts you need to update and modernize would take time. It would basically be to the point where, like the guidance system, for instance, we're not gonna literally use rope memory to make a modern guidance system for a rocket, right? The AGC was light years ahead of its time Digital processor in a spacecraft. That's huge. Every spacecraft has that now. How would you go about rebuilding that? Some of that you wouldn't even need. So now you're changing the design of the rocket because you have to conform to modern manufacturing. Now, once again, could we do it? Sure. Absolutely. Of course we could do it. But the time it would take to re-engineer all the systems on the Saturn V and modernize all the systems on the Saturn V, right? The time it would take to do that, you could have just engineered a rocket from the ground up. Because now you're introducing another step into the design process. You have the Saturn V, and now you have to go back. You have to A, figure out how it was put together. B, figure out the machining, the complex machining that they use to make said engines. And you have to adapt that to a modern manufacturing pipeline, right? Which the way rockets are made now and the way they were made 50 years ago is two different things. That's like comparing a car from the 60s to now. That's not a thing. Car design is completely different with maybe the exception of the tires. Right? Like, compare a Tesla to a 62 Buick Skylark. Those are two very different pieces of equipment. They're both cars, sure. They both have four wheels, which is why I said tires, right? But how they all work is completely different, right? So now we're taking all the Saturn V and we're taking the Saturn V, we're updating it for modern manufacturing, right? Now, say we figured out a more lightweight way of making a Saturn V. Say we figured that out. And say our modernized Saturn V actually ended up weighing like 10 to 15 tons less than the actual Saturn Vs that flew. Well, guess what? Now everything is different. Now your ascent profile is completely different. 20 tons is a big margin. And I guarantee you, if we made a Saturn V nowadays, it would be way lighter because of modern tank manufacturing techniques. Now, because your rocket is super freaking light, now the Saturn V's ascent profile is going to be completely different. The way the vehicle oscillates is going to be different. The moment of inertia that certain components have on the flight are going to be completely different, right? Your max Q point is going to be very different when you leave 20 tons out of the equation. So now this rocket, now you have to figure out how this reverse engineered rocket is going to fly. If you're going to go through all that work to do all of that, Stephen, why not just build a new rocket? Why even try to build something like the Saturn V? You're adding an extra step. It's no point in doing it. So it's not that we couldn't rebuild the Saturn V. We could absolutely do it. Rebuilding the Saturn V would actually take longer than clean sheeting a design. That's what I'm trying to tell you. 62 Buick did have positive traction. Like, it's not that we couldn't do it. We could absolutely do it. It would just take some time because now we have to reverse engineer the blueprints and figure out new design baselines. And then you can't just use the same trajectory that you used for the Saturn V. So your guidance systems are going to be different. Guidance optimization is going to be different. So basically, every component on the Saturn V, if we tried to make it today, would be completely different. It would end up being completely different than the ones that flew in the 50s, right? Because the gap is so ridiculously long at this point that you wouldn't even be called a Saturn V. It would look like it, but it wouldn't even be a Saturn V. Like, it would be in the same family of rockets, but it would be like Falcon 9 1.0 versus Falcon 9 1.1. Completely different vehicles, right? You heard about Lance Reddick. Somebody said he passed away, Panta. The name sounds familiar, but it's not ringing a bell. I don't know who that is. Is it weird that I want a 65 Corolla? No, those are cool cars. Carla was the prom queen. Yep. But again, no point in waiting on a modern Saturn V. We just have to be patient. Starship is on the way. Well, Midnight, here's the thing. I like SLS and I like Starship. And I don't know about you, I want both of those things because more rockets is better for your space program. I have yet to see anybody make a viable argument that consolidation of the launch industry is good for the launch industry. It's not. I want more rockets, not less. SLS used the remaining shuttle technology, which, because the shuttle program had just ended and shuttle manufacturing techniques are way closer to modern manufacturing than the Saturn V is, building a shuttle-derived launch vehicle was the right move. They just didn't fund it correctly, but you can learn about that in the systems engineering handbook, but that's another story. So having something like SLS up and running is great, and having something like Starship up and running is great. Yeah, I'm greedy, man. I want more rockets, not less. Different animals for different purposes. Exactly. One's for scientific exploration, the other one's for commercial profit. And potentially scientific exploration, commercial profit for scientific exploration through NASA, right? Like, we get the best of both worlds. We get to have our cake and eat it too, you know? I'd rather have it this way than Starship cornering the launch market and putting everybody else out of business. You guys see Virgin Orbit? Virgin Orbit furloughed their workers the other day. That didn't leave a good taste in anybody's mouth, did it? Do you want to see that happen more? I don't. Speaking of Saturn, we should design ours. Yep. Consolidation of the space industry's regulation authorities is what we want. That's right. Yep. Have you tried making a Starship replica in KSP2? I haven't yet, just because we don't have flappy wings, dude. But yeah. Speaking of that, how about we fire up KSP2 and we start building out our architecture? Lance Reddick was Charon in John Wick, amongst many other roles. Neat. With that being said, I'm going to re-engineer a Saturn V in KSP2 and build it right now for the KSP challenge. We did fail the Min-Miss challenge. We didn't get it done in time. So, let me tell you guys what the new challenge is. The developers today released the new weekly challenge for KSP. And instead of trying to just go Val level right off the bat, what I'm going to do is tick the primary, the stretch goal, Jeb level, and then Val level. We'll just tick each box off. And what I think would be a good idea would be to use the vehicles that we create to do the primary stretch and Jeb level goals to do the Val level goal. So what I want to do is make something like Apollo 7, something like Apollo 8, and something like Apollo 11, and then using these in some type of Apollo-style applications program to land on Duna and come back. I mean, Ian, we might. Creeper, that would be cool. Did you hear that Norway, Sweden, and Scotland are getting their own launch pads? Yep. Yeah, Svalbard. And then the Scottish one is way up in the north part of Scotland. I forget the name. Shetlands, that's it. Thank you, Alleviate. Yeah, I always forget the name of that, dude. I think they might too. Okay. Do you ever worry about Kessler's syndrome? Yeah, of course. Being a good space environmental steward is important, man. Yeah, you don't want to pollute space too much, because then it'll be impossible for anybody to launch. How big is the Kerbal universe? How many celestial bodies? The Kerbal solar system has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 celestial, or 6 planets, and those planets have moons. 6 planets, so Moho doesn't have a moon. Eve has Gilly. Kerbin has Mun and Minmus. Jewel has Bop, Pole, Tylo, Lathe, and Val, and then Elu. Elu is just by itself. Ooh, damn, Fred. All right. Duna has Ike. Yeah, I forgot one. Second thought, let's not go to Ike, Penta. It's a silly place. Forgot Drez. Who doesn't? Yeah, Reefer, it's depending on what the FAA says. That's right. So, we'll start off with Apollo 7. Build something like this and go from there. So, just like I said before, let's go through it and identify our stakeholder expectations. Apollo 7 was a low Earth orbit test flight of the Command Service Module. Apollo 8 was a lunar test flight of the Command Service Module. And Apollo 11 was a lunar landing utilizing the command service module to get to the moon with the lander. So, I think the first thing that we should make is the command service module, and then build everything around that, because that is required for every single one of these missions. So let's do it. Alright, so I wanted to use the capsule that we already had in the first, like, from playing release, but I was thinking that it probably would be better to build a capsule out by itself from the start. The reason why I thought it would be better to just rebuild everything is because we did know from trying to complete the Minmus challenge last week that there is problems with taking craft files from the previous save and putting them in here. So I'm going to build, there's problems with struts and there's problems with control surfaces. At least that's what we think. Not 100% sure. Don't want to sit here and wait till we figure out that, you know, we go to the moon and then the craft blows up, right? Add time. All right. So we're going to go Apollo style. So we need to build a command service module first. So let's do that. It is, Eric. Yeah, absolutely. Will this require lander docking back onto the ship? I tried to make my ship dock back with itself and couldn't do it, but I know I have no idea what was going on. Luby guy, yeah. We'll build a lander as well. All right, so let's roll. So, the top of the capsule. So the capsule, obviously, there's no thermal in Kerbal right now, so there's no heat from re-entry, but I'm still putting a heat shield on it because screw that. The Apollo command service module had a fair amount of delta V, so just like the capsule that we built before, this is basically going to be a quick recreation of the capsule that I already have. But yeah, I want it to have a little over 1,000 meters a second delta V by itself. That'll be enough so we could circularize the lander around the moon, or use it as a lifeboat if our Duna missions go south. Alright, so that's that. The next thing we need here is a decoupler for the service module, obviously. Now, before we get into that, actually, we need to focus on the capsule by itself. So this is the thing that every mission requires. It needs the thing that Kerbals need to go into space, right? Obviously, we need that. That's important. So this part, capsule needs a heat shield. So we need to make this thing accurate for entry, descent, and landing. We need to make it so it goes through EDL. EDL is basically re-entry, right? Entry, descent, and landing was the technical term for it. You could just call it re-entry. So what do we need for re-entry? Obviously a hatch. We do need parachutes as well, right? We could put Marvin in there for the tests, Norath. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do that again. We'll put my guidance system in there. So, we're going to need parachutes, right? That's first and foremost. We need a launch escape system. Ditch the parachutes, install bidets. Right. Yeah, sure. The parachute design that I had in this thing previously is good. Yeah, I'm going to use that design again. Only what we'll do is I'll put the drogue chutes on the sides here like this. Right? And we'll have the drogue compartments look like parachute mortars. There we go. And then I have the triple main chutes using the Mark 16, the Mark 16R. We had the chutes in 3x sim like this. We already know from our previous capsule design that 3 of these is fine. The 3 chutes, 2 drogues is good enough. I'm going to set my drogue chute deploy settings to 5,000 and set my main chute deploy settings . Mark 16, there we go. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Set that to 2,000. There we go. Perfect. All right. That's good for a descent. We already know that that's good. So, there's the chute deploy system here. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to move these around a little bit so they look good. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to look at the capsule from the side here. We need to look at it in orthographic view. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but the Apollo capsule's center of mass actually isn't on its center line. If you don't know this, this is an important thing to understand. I know people have re-entered capsules in KSP before, and when they re-entered them, it's just where you come down is where you come down. Now, capsules in real life actually can be steered in one direction or another. You can steer them. How do they do that? Well, they do that by pushing the center of mass downward, like this. They load up one side of the capsule. Generally, the part that's the opposite of the part where humans are. Every capsule since the Apollo program has done this. Okay? Why? Why would you do that? Why would you want to load up one side of the capsule? What does that do? Well, what loading up one side of the capsule does is make it so your center of mass is actually biased to one side. The capsule being biased to one side like this basically makes it so that you can modulate the angle of attack of your heat shield. I'm going to show you an extreme example. I'll do an extreme example by attaching a pretty big fuel tank to the side of this thing. Right? Attaching that huge fuel tank to the side, if we go back into orthographic, right? And we put an I-beam on our center line here. The I-beam is the center line, and look at how far the center of mass is off of that center line. Now, why would you do this? Well, when this thing re-enters, when anything falls down from space, it always really wants to fly center of mass forward, right? Think about a bottle flip. Kids probably don't do bottle flips anymore. That was cool for a little while, but it's not really cool anymore. When you do the bottle flip, right, the water falls down to the bottom of the bottle, and where the water is wants to fly first, right? Lopsiding the capsule like this basically makes it so if this capsule goes through re-entry and our re-entry heat is coming at us this way, the center of mass is going to want to fly first. It's going to want to go this way. It's going to want to be closest to the oncoming directions. So what that inadvertently does is change the angle of attack of your heat shield. Now, if we took this capsule, right, and we were coming through re-entry, it would do this, right? It would want to fly like this, in which case the heat shield would be diverting the air upwards, right? It would be diverting the re-entry heat kind of this way, right? And that would make a lot of drag on the top of the capsule, which would make it fall out of the sky faster. Now, if we took the capsule, right, and we did this with it, now where's that center of mass? That center of mass is on the top if you rolled it upside down. So now it's going to want to fly this way. Center of mass wants to be as close to the front of the vehicle as possible. So now this vehicle is going to fly like this. Right? Now it's going to fly like that. It's going to want to angle the heat shield so the heat shield deflects entry heating downwards. See that? It deflects it downwards. You want to know how they skip off the atmosphere? If you watched Artemis 1... and you heard NASA talking about doing a skip off the atmosphere, well, the Apollo program did the same thing. That's how Orion and the Apollo CSM do that. They have an offset center of mass, and using the roll RCS on the capsule, they're able to change the angle of attack on the heat shield to steer the capsule in. They can essentially skip off the atmosphere and use that to push a re-entry trajectory further downrange or closer downrange. Simultaneously, you could use that to turn a capsule left or right and make cross-range capability. So if we look at it from this side, center of mass is flying on the left side now because that's where our mass bias is, right? So what is this capsule going to do? Well, this capsule is going to do this. This capsule is going to fly like that. It's going to want to do this. Now you're deflecting the air sideways. So deflecting the air this way is going to turn your trajectory to the right. Pretty cool, huh? So I want to do that. I want to build my capsule like that. That's something that I didn't exactly get right on the previous design of the capsule. So we need to figure out a way to put stuff down on one side of the capsule, stuff that we're going to need. We did put the monopropellant thrusters in there, Jay, but that wasn't really enough mass. So if actually you guys want to hear something really cool, right? Now, they roll the capsule like this, to change the angle of attack of your thermal protection system to have what's called cross-range capabilities, meaning that you can turn and maneuver during re-entry. If you look here, if you look at a space shuttle, when the space shuttle flies through the atmosphere, the shuttle does what's called a bunch of S-turns, okay? So I'm trying to find just a YouTube video where we could show this real quick. The space shuttle does a bunch of S-turns coming back from space. Here, let me see. Whose video is this? This is a video coming from a YouTuber called Phil Wink. This is definitely Orbiter here, if I'm looking at that right. Yeah, it says it right on the screen. Now watch. Watch the shuttle. When the shuttle comes back down, it changes the angle of attack of its thermal protection system on the bottom of the vehicle to either slow down, speed up, or turn for cross-range capability. That is way too much of a bank angle for the shuttle. The shuttle bank angle during re-entry didn't exceed 70 degrees per the operations manual. That would kill somebody right there. But whatever. Phil, it's fine. He got his shuttle home. It doesn't matter. See that? The shuttle, when it flies through re-entry, is literally doing the same thing. And guess what? If you take a look at a picture of a space shuttle, right? Just, you know, Space Shuttle SRB. That was populated because of the previous conversation we had. If you look just at the bottom of the space shuttle, it's not fully flat if you look at it from certain angles. It's not flat. It's kind of curved at the sides and curved up at the front, and then there's a low point right on the center of mass. It's almost like it's the same exact shape as a heat shield. That concave shape, or convex in this particular case, that convex shape. It's the same shape, dudes, but it's stretched into a shuttle wing design. That's exactly how they went and made the space shuttle. The space shuttle does the exact same thing during re-entry, only because it has wings, they call it S-turns instead of just capsule RCS modulation. Yep. See, the shuttle does the exact same thing, only with a airplane-shaped mass instead of a cone-shaped mass. Yep, there you go. See? I want our capsule to do this. This is something that I didn't exactly get right with the previous capsule. I want to be able to steer my capsule down and land it on one of the freaking, with parachutes on one of the landing pads, or be able to land in the dock at KSC. That's what I want. Yeah, Aqualex, yeah. Look inside. Look at the inside of the KSP-2 heat shield. You've seen this before. Yep. You found the reference picture that they used, didn't you? Pretty cool, huh? All right, let's do this. All right, let's roll. So, actually, before we put that on there, let's take this and we're going to need something to weigh us down. We were using the little monoprop balls before. We don't necessarily want to use that. Yeah, that heat shield that we just saw, Eric, was Curiosity and Perseverance's heat shield for Mars. Are the batteries particularly heavy? Now, let's check to see what our bat power is on this thing. Here we have 150 units of electrical charge. And we have a little bit of monopropellant on there. Now, because we're putting monopropellant tanks on there, let's just get rid of that. I mean, but then again, the tanks are already there. We might as well use them. But that doesn't offset our center of mass exactly. No, Journey, but I'm still going to design it with the heat shield because... Now, I don't want reaction wheels. The real capsule didn't have a gyro for heading orientation in it. The gyros were for the guidance system, so I don't want that. Get rid of that. I don't want any reaction wheel torque. We don't need that. Our RCS will be our heading hold authority. That's what we want. So in that regard, let's I'd say putting bigger monopropellant tanks down there would probably be better. But what I have to do, what we got to do is figure out how to lock out a tank. Because obviously if I put something like this down here, right? If we put something like that down there, that's going to offset the center of mass pretty well. That's enough to make a difference, right? I mean, ideally we'd want it like down here somewhere. Yeah, it's still not a lot. You doing a space review tonight? Bloodfam, I kind of intersperse space news with Kerbal nowadays. I found that that actually is a good way to keep the pacing of the stream well. Why? Do you have a question, brother? I'll answer a question if you have it. That's no problem. Disabling fuel crossfeed on decouplers works now. Well, dad joke, that presents a little bit of a problem. It's a little bit of a problem for me. How do we use these reaction control thrusters here? How do we use those? Unless the solution is we don't, and we only use them during re-entry, in which case then that would work. But the RCS on the service module that we're going to do, so it's 4 quad thrusters in 4 times symmetry. Is that enough for all headings? Do the Kerbal in there shift it? In KSP1 they do. I don't know about 2, Squishy. Oh, that's cool, Left Hand. Right on, dude. Yeah, dude, just link that. I'll tee it up in my videos. We'll watch that later. The pod has monopropellant in it. So? S, the context of this conversation is creating our offset center of mass for cross-range capability. Monoprop being in the capsule doesn't do that. That doesn't change it. That's the context of conversation. That's why I know there's a monoprop tank there. I'm looking to attach a monoprop tank to a monoprop tank. Does that make sense? So before, we were using these things. Those things are only 28 kilos a pop, and they're not very... Wait, what the hell? Oh yeah, okay, cool. I was gonna say those don't move us very far, even if we put them all the way down. That doesn't shift us very far. That's not good enough. It needs to be a little ways offset, guys. And obviously you want your center of mass bias to be towards the heat shield with the capsule for when you're re-entering. You don't want your center of mass up at the top. COM up at the top means the capsule flies like a warhead and not like a capsule. If it flies like a warhead, well, warheads aren't designed to come down and land in one piece, now are they? So we need our center of mass low. Here you go. Yeah, Aqualex, I think you might... Yeah, that makes sense. Flying the most complex machine ever created. Who's doing the... Oh, that's Terry Virts, dude. Terry Virts is cool, man. Yeah. Terry Virts is doing the commentary. He flew on STS-130, dude. He was a pilot on STS-130. I've never seen this video, but I know who that is. Yeah, he's retired now. He left the NASA Astronaut Corps. I'm not sure what he's up to now. Maybe Marvin could shift it? Yeah, that's possible. Do astronauts weigh in shortly before a flight? How sensitive is the vehicle to small weight changes? Depends on the overall size of the vehicle, Magic. So think about it like this. If you have a 747... having one extra person on a 747 is not going to make that big of a difference. All right. But if you're flying around in an ultralight glider, right, or a Cessna, having one person, a heavier person on is absolutely going to make a difference to how it flies. It feeds into something called mass fraction in the application of rockets. Mass fraction. So you have something like the Saturn V. If Neil Armstrong has a couple of more hamburgers than Buzz Aldrin and weighs 4 or 5 pounds more than him, is that going to make a difference on a vehicle that makes 7.5 million pounds of thrust? No, not really. That'll make much more of a difference, though, when just the capsule's moving around. That'll make a big difference when they're just flying the capsule around, because the fraction of those 5 pounds makes a difference. So yes, the astronauts do weigh in before they put their spacesuit on. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Just like wrestling, dude. Or boxing. The YouTuber is an F-16 pilot. Yeah. Hazard Lee, that's cool. And that's cool that he got to go with Terry. Terry's a cool astronaut, dude. He installed the cupola module on the ISS. True story. Or no, the crew that he was flying the shuttle, if I'm remembering right. So, if we locked out the monoprop tanks and then shut these thrusters off, that would probably be the right way to do this. But that begs the point. The 2 monoprop thrusters that I had in here previously, fellas, is not really enough to throw off our center of mass too far. So if I took these 2 thrusters and we put them in here, right? And then we put them as far down as we possibly can, right? And as low as we possibly can. Fuel is always stored in the balls, chat, by the way, okay? Don't ever forget that. That's an important lesson. I don't want them sticking out because, yeah, we don't want them sticking out. So right there and closer together would probably be the closest we can put those. Even making them clip out of the back a little bit, that's not going to matter because the heat shield's going to be there. You're not going to see it. Would probably be good. But if we go back into ortho, right, and check our side views, that's not very far off of the center line. Psst, your balls are showing. Bumblebee Tuna. Lava Eagle, just type it again, dude. I'm trying to get away from doing C last because there's a lot more people in here than usual. Yeah, there you go, DJ. Would no monopropellant on the pod change more the position of center of mass with the attached tank? That, Janik, that's actually a good question. I'm not sure if draining the monopropellant from the capsule is going to do it. Lava Eagle, I actually scrolled that one time, dude. But yeah, I want to try to get away from doing C last, man. It's hard to keep track of this many people. Bumblebee Tuna. Bumblebee Tuna. Let's see. It's just, sometimes you just got to update it. All right, let's look. Where's our center point? Our center point is basically a little bit away from that rivet right there. So if we fill this back up and we cycle that, no effect. No, it doesn't change it at all. Now, that would probably give the craft a little bit more moment of inertia because those components are there and the capsule is overall lighter. So that actually might not be the worst idea, to be honest with you. Because if the capsule is less mass, it's once again, we're talking about mass fraction here, right? If the capsule shape is less mass and we have more fraction of mass down there, that will shift. That will shift the COM, theoretically. Well, it won't shift the COM, but those will have more moment. But just a little bit more. I mean, it might fly a little better if we do that. Rocket Guy, I'm wondering what putting a second set down here is going to do. I mean, guys, I'll be honest. This is where the pressure vessels are on the real stuff. On the real capsules, they're all down low by the heat shield, which is a heck of a problem to out-engineer, considering you don't want to heat these up. And on the other side of the heat shield, it can reach like 1600 C. That is a hell of a problem to solve. But yeah, every capsule does something like this. Dragon does something like this. Starliner has all of its COPVs down low. The Apollo CSM, Orion, they're all like this. Because it's convergent design. The physics doesn't change just because you're flying something that's shaped slightly different. I'm wondering if we could put these right there in between the thrusters like that. It's actually not bad, dude. Not bad. Now, 4 of them, where is that shifting us? You don't want to cook the balls. No. That's bad for them. Now, we're basically on that second rivet right there. I'm thinking batteries, too. Another user suggested batteries. We could do that. Aqualex, you're suggesting batteries, too. But the thing is that batteries aren't very heavy. That's the problem. Batteries are still super lightweight in this game. BJ actually used a trim tab on his Jebstone 4 in KSP, if I remember correctly. That's right. Yep, I put a trim tab on the SRB so it would pop down and fly correctly. We need ore. Yeah, we do. So that's getting us kind of... That's getting us kind of where we want. I need this thing... We're at that rivet right there. See that? I need it to be like down here. Like maybe 1 or 2 rivets down if we can help it. Lava was asking if a trim tab could be used. Yeah, of course. We don't have like a deployable air brake though for a trim tab. I use that on my SRBs. But yeah, we don't have like deploying an air brake on one side, that would absolutely do it. But we don't have something like an air brake, dude. That's the problem. Oh yeah, Clang. Yeah, we gotta be sure to do that. A control surface will work. Can you tuck in an I-beam, Sloffy? We could do that, but I tend to not. I don't. Okay. Tucking an I-beam down there would definitely do it. But I'd rather put something down there that is something that we could use. Electrical charge, monoprop tank, something like that. The reason why is I think it's kind of a weird habit. It's a weird habit to... it's a weird habit to get into to... like add ballast just because you want to get a spacecraft to fly correctly. Now in Kerbal, we can't just conjure every part out of thin air, right? So it's not gonna... we're never going to have the exact part that we need. So in Kerbal, it's not as big of a deal. But personally, I tried to make it fly. I would like to try and see if we could use at least a useful thing, something that we could use on the mission, battery, monoprop tank, to do that, rather than just having dead freaking mass. You know, I don't now like ships notwithstanding, like watercraft notwithstanding, using ballast to fly correctly is not necessarily the best idea, especially when it comes to stuff that flies, because the name of the game with making stuff fly is making it as light as possible. So if you insist on putting mass or mass component there or some type of dry mass there, it would be better if it was something that you could use, something that the vehicle actually needs, you know. But with that being said, if you don't want to sit there and engineer the capsule out and you just want something to fly, freaking put a beam in the bottom of that thing, dude. You know, it really depends on how crazy you want to get with Kerbal. What does the RTG weigh? 75 kilos. But honestly, no spacecraft would have the RTG right next to the people flying that. I don't want to do that just because that is so out of the realm of realism. I don't think we should do it. And besides, a battery is 20 kilos, and that works. That would work pretty well. Oh, wait. Bloodfam, are you still here, dude? I have another thing. Terry Virts is an Astros fan, dude. Big Astros fan, by the way. Just thought I'd let you know. So that's 20 kilos of battery down there. So how much is that shifting us now? Ah, yeah. Yeah, we're slowly moving down. What if we have another set of 2 right here, like that? Put the batteries in between the put the batteries in between the tanks. Yeah, that's definitely moving us down. That might be enough, dude. Might be enough. I'd have to move these this way and then move them down just a little bit. Oh no, can't do that. They're popping out that way. You don't want the balls to pop out. That's no good. Man, it seems like that would impact it more. The capsule is heavy, I guess. Yeah, Jay, right? Yeah. A fuel cell plus a small methane tank would be a good option. Yeah. Bumblebee tuna. The balls are getting clipped. All right. All right. Maybe that wasn't the best idea. We don't want nobody wants clipped balls. That's yeah, you don't want that. So that's 20 kilos and that's 5. Now what we're getting into, like I was talking before, is we're talking about moment of inertia here. So long story short, moment is kind of how much energy you have over something, like a lever with a longer moment. So a pivot point that's further, a fulcrum point that's further away from a lever with a fulcrum that's further away from pivot will have more torque, right? Moment kind of deals with stuff like that. So let's think about this for a second. I can take this battery and say from the center line here, we are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 130, 120, 110. We're about 1 meter 10 centimeter from here. Okay, so that's 110 centimeters, right? So yeah, in Kerbal the ticks are in 10 centimeter. If you hold left shift, that's a 10 centimeter increment. Just if it's like Kerbal 1, that's what it is in Kerbal 1. Just on a side note. So we have 20 kilograms. That is roughly a meter from the center line of the capsule. Now these batteries over here are 5 kilograms. So let's look at this. You have this and you have this. That means 4 of these things at 110 centimeters away, like that, would have the same leverage or moment over the center line of the capsule. But here's the thing. These batteries could fit in between these tanks, right? And if they could fit in between these tanks, theoretically, moving these down here, right? Moving the batteries a little bit closer together like that and moving them away like this, that will actually give us more moment because we're taking that same 20 kilograms and we're spreading it across, and because we could spread it across in between the fuel tanks a little bit better, right? This actually will end up having more moment at the expense of part count.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Now the real question is, if I could take one battery and put it here, would these 15 kilograms of battery being a little bit more away have more moment than a 20 kilogram battery being a meter away from the center line? Would it? I don't know. Now that's some math that we'd have to figure out. We could figure out the math, or we could literally just look at the center of mass. If the center of mass is relatively in the same position, then those 3 batteries being a little bit further away than the 1 battery being a meter away actually does us right. And that does seem to be working. This panel right here, where that seam is the center line of the capsule. So we are moving 3 batteries there as opposed to 1, not clipping into the tanks, actually gets us a lower center of mass. So that's good. So I'm going to take these batteries and we'll put them in their kind of finalized positions here. More or less. Finalized positions. Now let's just go over here, make sure they're not clipping into anything, make sure we can't see them. Would the fuel cell fit in between those? I'm not sure I want to do a fuel cell, dudes, just because the fuel cell's 50 kilos, and yeah, it probably would fit, but the fuel cells belong on the service module. Once again, that kind of goes against my plausible realism rule. The plausible realism rule, I'll admit, is something that I basically threw out the window for the Min-Miss challenge. But this challenge, basically, we could do it. Here we go. Yellow batteries. I want to go back to doing my plausible realism. So, yeah, because we can do it with this challenge, which is nice. So I got that going for me, which is nice. The other thing is that I actually took the drogue chutes and moved the drogue chutes out by the door this time around instead of putting them on the front like this. And having the 4 parachutes down here like that actually does help shift our center line a little bit as well, which is good. Capsules do that too. SpaceX's Dragon has the parachute packed on one side. Actually, the 4 chutes are packed into one side of the capsule on purpose. I don't want fuel cells, guys, on the capsule. The fuel cells are going to be in the service module. Because if you think about this, I said I wanted to fill it up with useful components. And that's true, right? That's absolutely true. But also, right, I don't want to put components on this that you're not going to need for that phase of the mission. You are going to need monopropellant. And you're absolutely going to need, battery power. But how the capsule, how the service module works, Starliner does this, Orion does this, Dragon doesn't do this because the service module is built into the capsule. That's why Dragon has that weird oblong shape, because the service module, they bring it back. They wouldn't have a fuel cell on the capsule. They would only have batteries. Why? Because the capsule is really only designed to fly by itself for 30 minutes at best. You don't need the batteries for much longer before the recovery crew comes and recovers the capsule, in which case if it runs out of batteries, who cares? The service module for the Apollo style CSM is what's generating power. The fuel cell and the electrical system, the electrical fuel cell is actually what exploded during Apollo 13. That wasn't actually a propellant system. It was a fuel cell. And the fuel cell, the O2 tank. The fuel cell they use fuel cells because they use hydrogen and oxygen fuel cells on spacecraft. Because hydrogen and oxygen, you can make a fuel cell and generate electrical power, and the crew could also use the oxygen for that whole breathing thing. That way you can make it all work as one, which that's, yeah, kind of important. Especially like on like the space shuttle. Also, a byproduct of the fuel cell is water. Yeah, humans need oxygen and water. That's kind of important. Would tilting the heat shield help slightly? That wouldn't, nah, not really, Lava, because tilting it is just gonna, it's not gonna shift the center of mass down, you know?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
We are pretty significantly offset here. That might be enough to make a difference. We're gonna have to go and test it later. Breathing is for the weak. I guess we're all weak then. Can I ask why you want the center of mass offset? Sure. Ginger, yeah, absolutely. This is the reason. I described it when we started building it a little ways ago, but I'll describe it again. The reason why is with a capsule, you want an offset center of mass, right? If that line represents the way that the thing, or if that arrow represents the travel direction, and this one represents the center line of the capsule, having an offset center of mass means you can use the RCS, the reaction control systems, and you can roll the capsule, and rolling the capsule actually changes the angle of attack of the heat shield. Changing the angle of attack of the heat shield means that you can steer the capsule down to a precise landing area. Yeah. That's important. Yeah, I don't think I need to say why that's important. You know, you don't want we'll just land over there. Hopefully there's no water or cities or something below us. That's actually how they steer capsules. That's actually coincidentally, too, how they bounce off the atmosphere. How NASA bounces off the atmosphere. They skip off the atmosphere when they come back from lunar re-entry. Yeah, really, really cool trick. So what I'm doing is, we're doing the KSP challenge here. And the KSP challenge for this week, I failed last week's challenge. I didn't get it done, which was annoying. KSP challenge this week is to recreate Apollo 7, Apollo 8, and Apollo 11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it. Oh, hey, beautiful. I'm going to use that to teach people about how capsules work. And then we're going to go do it, and we're going to actually complete the challenge instead of failing it like last week's. Yeah.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hey, Xeon, what's up, man? 28-month resub. How you doing, buddy? And Ting with an 8-monther in there, too. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. We're landing North Dakota or Yakutsk, either one. Actually, funny story, Nick. Soyuz has emergency abort landing sites in the Midwest, or it did at one point. And the Apollo capsule had abort landing sites in Siberia. True story. The reason why they did that is because the way the outer space law is denoted is that if you have a capsule that has an emergency and you need to land somewhere, even if they had a Soyuz with 3 cosmonauts that came down and landed in Minnesota, it would still be space property or space flight hardware is the property of the country that launched it no matter what. That's per the 1967 Outer Space Treaty. And the reason why it's there is because if the poop hits the fan and you have to deorbit, and if you come down over the United States, so be it. You don't have to worry about having an international incident. It's actually a really smart way to do things. Which is also why the legitimate salvage rule in The Expanse is dumb. It's legitimate salvage. No, it's not legitimate salvage. You know what they call that? They call that stealing. Any port in a storm. Indeed, Aldezert. Yep. Kind of an not an unspoken rule. It's an actual rule. That's kind of, yeah, it's kind of important. It's declaring an emergency as a pilot. Yep. Underappreciated rule, for sure. The shuttle, more importantly, had abort landing sites all over Europe. Oh yeah, absolutely. The U.S. basically made sure it built out a bunch of infrastructure at a bunch of European airports to make it so the shuttle could land there if they needed to. Most of it was military bases, like Ramstein in Germany. That was an abort site. Zaragoza, the U.S. military base in Spain, Zaragoza. That's also one. There's one in France. There's one in the U.K. They're all over the place. Shuttle abort sites are everywhere. You just need a 15,000-foot runway because the shuttle has no reverse thrusters, just air brakes and parachutes, right? Like, all right, what else could we put down here? Let's think. Is there anything else that's useful that we could put down here? I love Rammstein. Du hast mich. When they bounce the capsule off of the atmosphere, do they actually go up or just go less steep? Oh no, it skips off the atmosphere, Broken. The reason why they do that is to make sure the heat shield doesn't overheat. Yeah. So think about it. You have just kind of picture you have your garden variety low Earth orbit reentry, right? You're going to hit the atmosphere going about 20,000 miles an hour, give or take. So that's 32,000 kilometers an hour. It's pretty quick. And your heat shield, if you fly on a shallow trajectory, let's say your heat shield gets to 1600 C, all right? Most human-rated capsules are in anything with people in it is on a very shallow trajectory on purpose. That's to minimize G-forces. You don't want to liquefy the crew before they get back down to the surface, yeah. The steep reentry angles are kind of for nukes. But the thing about reentry is like this. Basically, the shallower your reentry back into the atmosphere, because... right, I mean, the nuke isn't coming down at the same speed as the capsule, but say, for argument's sake, that they were. Your reentry warhead, say it has atmospheric interface at 20,000, and your capsule has atmospheric interface at 20,000 miles an hour, right? Just bear with me here, okay? So, the thing about that is that the capsule and the warhead, despite being on a completely different trajectory, will absolutely absorb the same amount of heat. The total impulse of heat that is absorbed through something coming back from the atmosphere, regardless of trajectory, as long as both of them are coming back at the same speed, and it changes if you're coming back at a different speed, right? The impulse is always going to be the same. It's always going to be the same. So the warhead will get the same amount of entry heating. It'll get the same amount of energy as the capsule. Why? Well, because they're flying through the same atmosphere, man. That's like saying if you go into water and I go into water, I'm not going to get wet, but you are. You know, but that's another story. Now, here's the difference. Flying on a shallow trajectory, obviously G-forces are way less than the nuclear warhead going through the atmosphere, right? The G-forces on that thing decelerating are going to be extremely high. And that is the key right there. It's not necessarily about G-force. I mean, with people on board, it absolutely is. But the heating has a lot to do with it. That shallow reentry trajectory, right? The shallower reentry trajectory, you're going to have an overall lower temperature, but the period of heating will be longer. The impulse will be the same. Cool, huh? With the warhead coming back, right? Your peak heating will be way higher, but your heating period will be way lower. But it'll be the same amount of energy absorbed. Weird, huh? Liquefying the crew is also bad. Yeah, that's also bad. You don't want that. Flatten the heating curve. So I said a second ago that the capsule coming back down at 1600 C, right, is going to... The capsule coming back down, the heat shield gets to 1600 C. That's pretty low for re-entry heating, and that is the highest it's going to go, but the heating period will be longer. The nuclear warhead that's going to go down will experience like 3000 C, but it'll only be for a second. And now that gets into the different thermodynamic property, or material science, I should say, of heat shields. Do you want a slow cooker heat shield, or do you want a flash fry heat shield, right? So how does that apply when skipping off the atmosphere? Well, if you're coming back from the moon, you're not hitting at 20,000 miles an hour. You're hitting at 25,000 miles an hour. A little faster. So remember I said it was correlated to speed. You hit the atmosphere going faster, that peak heating is going to go up because you're gonna dip in. So what NASA does is coming back from the moon, they hit the atmosphere at a very shallow angle, and then they roll the capsule over to basically turn the heat shield into a giant wing and skip off of it. What that does, right? What that'll do is keep your peak heating lower on your heat shield, because you're skipping off the atmosphere, and when they skip off the atmosphere, they bleed off about 5,000 miles an hour, give or take. And now you're back to hitting the atmosphere at 20,000 miles an hour again. Because if you tried to just do the whole thing in one shot in one descent trajectory, your peak heating would go way higher than what the heat shield is rated for. Now you need a bigger heat shield. Now that's more mass, right? You don't want that. That's no good. But yeah, that kind of gets into heat shield design now. But long story short, Broken, they skipped off the atmosphere to make sure that their overall peak heating point was not any higher than it would be coming back from low Earth orbit. Because that first skip is like going through one re-entry, and then the second one's like going through a second one right after. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have an ablator heat shield, your heat shield's going to be heavier because you need more ablator, because your total time of heating skipping off the atmosphere is going to be higher. But the energy, the amount of heat to the heat shield will always be the same. The impulse is always the same because you're entering the same. Everybody's entering the same atmosphere. Cool, huh? It's just you want to spread the load so you don't melt the entire heat shield on the first time in. That feeds into the engineering and kind of the brilliance of the Apollo program, right? The brilliance of the Apollo program is that there are a lot of things that the Apollo program asks for that are not something that, within the confines of the law of physics that you can push against, right? So the Apollo engineers figured out ways around these problems. You're kind of maneuvering around a minefield of physics laws. And skipping off the atmosphere in that offset center of mass is one of those. Pretty cool, huh? Oh, we got a dev update. Man. Yeah, the early stuff, Aqualex, it did not create lift. Yeah, that's right, dude. Yep. They figured this out during Apollo, the offset center of mass. It's genius, dude. It's ridiculous. And, dude, I will contend to say this. If they didn't figure out that modulating the angle of attack of the heat shield through an offset center of mass, if they didn't figure that stuff out, I don't think the space shuttle re-entry trajectory would have been figured out. I'm serious. The space shuttle S-turns are literally doing the same exact thing, only with a shuttle-shaped re-entry vehicle, right? It's crazy, dude. It's all the why earlier re-entries were brutal. Yeah, Alan Shepard did like 9 Gs when he launched him into space. You're absolutely right. Yeah, good stuff. Jazos, yeah, okay, so I have the dev notes up. Thanks for the answer. Do you know how much they go up when they bounce? Yeah, Broken. They basically, after the first skip, the second part of the re-entry is basically an entry from a low Earth orbit. So, I don't know, coming back from 200, yeah, it's, they hit the atmosphere, they dip in probably, I mean, they don't go very far into the atmosphere on the first skip. They don't do that. Yeah, I'd say like 50 miles, 60 miles, maybe 100 at best. Because, yeah, the second re-entry is just supposed to be a regular Regular low Earth orbit re-entry. That's why they skip. It's cool, right? It's really freaking smart. Somebody figured out all this crap in the 60s with no computers. No computers. This was done out on blueprints, man. And the math was done out by crazy melon farmers with a chalkboard and a slide rule. That's hardcore, man. That would be so difficult to do today. Like, that's what blows my mind about the Apollo program. Even the computers that they designed for the Apollo program weren't even designed on computers. They were drawn. They were blueprints for a freaking computer. Like, what? Like, what? Blueprints for a computer? Wait, you mean they didn't design the computer on a computer? No, there was no computer that could design the damn computer, dingus. Right? Like, it's weird, man. All right, let's see what Nate's notes are about. Nate's notes. So this is coming from Nate, posted a couple hours ago. Patch 1 is out, and players have been putting it through its paces for a whole day now. We still got plenty of work to do, but the overall takeaway seems to be that the game has seen some big improvement in big performance and feature improvements. Yeah, damn straight. That's a freaking understatement. Yeah, Nick, right? I mean, I can see how you dropped that thing out on a, like, doing all the math out with a slide rule. I can see that, but man, that must have been tedious. You got to remember, dude, they went from nothing in 1961 to people on the moon in less than a decade. No computers. Speed run lunar program, any percentage, no computer. Like, unfreaking believable, dude. It's fascinating stuff. Like, how that's nuts, dude. Now, there were some components that were designed on computers. IBM had a lot to do with the guidance system. That is something to say. But yeah, also, yeah. Mm-hmm. Peak deceleration was a problem more because of structural load. I mean, there's a problem with structural load, but a longer reentry meant more ablator mass. Yeah, that's what I was talking about a second ago, dude. Fake. You shut your filthy mouth. You guys said we did it, PY, so shh. Shut your filthy mouth. Don't you dare badmouth Star Wars. That was all accurate. Anyway, it has been especially nice to see that even small gains are appreciated by players. It's all about them gains, bro. They were drunk. I mean, PY, you kind of set yourself up for this, but when are they not? You said that. Hey, those are your words, not mine. You set yourself up for that one, homie. First 10 years of life. It's a rite of passage. All right. Rest assured that the devs who work on those features are reading your comments and feeling the love. Our team will soak up all these good community vibes and use them to power us towards patch 2, which will contain even more optimizations and improvements. Your feedback and bug reports have been invaluable for helping us to determine the frequency and severity of ongoing issues, and that information informs our production priorities going forward. Performance improvements and bug fixes will continue to take place alongside ongoing development of core features like re-entry heating, thermal systems, and other headline features on the roadmap. Yeah, that's the one we know about. As you can see, progress is being made. Oh, re-entry. Yep, we got another one in a couple of hours, S. Yep. We can't yet predict which update will contain re-entry heating for obvious reasons. We're holding ourselves to a very high standard of performance. As soon as it's doing everything we need it to do in every situation in which it needs to do it, we'll add re-entry into a future patch. The missile knows where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't. By subtracting where it is from where it isn't, the system has developed a deviation. It could also be corrected by the GEA. I want to see a proper bow shock. That would be a visual effect, Aqualux. But yeah, I mean, so most re-entry heating in video games is visual effect. But yeah, absolutely. Get that art team going, right? In other news, if you haven't seen any of the extracurricular activity videos, You should check them out. Our community team has put a ton of work into creating bite-sized assets that go deeper into vehicle construction and piloting tips. There's a new one about wings. They're fun, informative, and educational. Let's see. What else? Oh, next Friday is Hawaiian T-shirt day. So everybody wear a Hawaiian T-shirt. Anyway, next Friday, I'll be joining the community team to do my first Ask Me Anything. You can submit your questions via this forum post or directly to Discord. On Friday morning, I'll dig into the pile and do my best to answer as many as you can. As many as he can. Last but not least, we've got another weekly challenge. All right, we know about that. Happy launching. But yeah, there's some re-entry stuff. Very nice. Note, Rocket Guy. Note there's a gap between where the entry heating barrier is and then the actual nose cone of the booster. See that, guys? Re-entry works like that to an extent. It's close. It really depends on how fast you're going. The bow shock distance from the actual surface of what is flying through said medium is going to change. The distance between. It's going to change. More importantly, the wake. The wake, the angle, the theta angle of the bow shock will change dependent on speed. Yeah, but see, re-entry does look like that. The reason why is that air gets trapped up in here at high pressure. Yeah. Re-entry is basically ripping the atmosphere, ripping the atmospheric molecules in half at a molecular level. Ripping the atmosphere in half at a molecular level. That's, yeah, basically you're going so fast, you hit an air molecule, it rips in half. And what happens when you split? What happens when you split atoms? Energy. Lots of it. That's what re-entry heating is. Get a lot of heat. I got some news for you. I'm going to tear your atmosphere a new one. Yep. Actually, what happens is it ionizes and it turns to plasma. And that plasma just kind of stays there. It accumulates, which is annoying, to say the least. Electrons be gone. Yep. Yep. Tearing the atmosphere a new one, so to speak. Yep. It's just angry ions. Anyway, I want to get this capsule done. We're doing that challenge, guys, so let's do it. So, you guys think? I'm thinking that might be enough to make a difference. It's not too much of a difference, but we might be able to make it, you know, make it do, I guess is the right way to say it. The angle of that is wrong. These need to be angled in a little bit so they're nice and uniform. Yes, that's important to me. Okay? Shh. Quiet. Because people don't know what bow shock is. Yep. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Basically, when you're going so fast and you hit the atmosphere so much, you compress it to the point where it turns to plasma and it looks like a wake from a boat. There's your bow shock right there. Another thing is that if anybody here has watched the slow-mo guys on YouTube, you guys anybody here ever watched that episode of slow-mo guys where they shoot the shells out of the tank and the 152mm artillery piece? The bullet going through the air? Bow shock, baby. Same thing. Cool, huh? But that's supersonics. That's not hypersonics. At hypersonics, that bow shock catches on fire. You know, people go to bed at night, they go to re-enter, they think everything's fine, everything's good. They wake up mid-re-entry and their capsule's on fire. Yeah, the Navy railgun, same thing. Yep. And it starts melting the pointy front end. Yep, indeed. Schlieren imaging. Yes, Schlieren. I think I had that for dinner the other day. It's a German delicacy for... Okay. That was a joke. It didn't... Yeah, okay. Fire makes things exciting. Oh, you're not wrong. And holism... Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, oh yeah, it absolutely does. It's a good time. Rockets... Yeah, rockets make a lot of fire. You just want to make sure that with your rocket, you're making fire in the right direction. If the fire is coming from a direction that you don't want, something's probably gone wrong. Just a thought. So see, our difference between the center of lift and... see, that's not gonna... Yeah. What if the fire's shooting at us? Yeah, pretty sure you got a problem there. Or you won't go to space. That's... Yep, Joe. Yep, see? You're not wrong. I don't know, dudes. We might have a... This might be enough. Might be enough. Can we see the... Yeah, you can see the stuff that we put down there. Wait a minute. There's an actual, like, cavity down here for things. So much room for activities. Cool. I actually love that the interiors are here. That makes me so happy. Hell yeah. Yeah, see, we need to put more stuff down here. Maybe we should put Marvin down there. How much does Marvin weigh? Marvin's 53 tons. Or 53 tons. 53 kilograms. 53 kilograms? That's almost 63 kilograms. Yeah, I know. Alright, how much does that panel weigh? That's 22 kilos. All right. Do we have enough space to put Marvin down here? We really don't. Marvin needs to be in his seat for the camera, but Marvin will have his own camera now, dude. Yeah, Marvin will have his own camera. Yeah, that's not enough to fit 3 Kerbals in there, though. Crapo. But let's see, where did it move our center of mass? Did it move it down? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it wasn't by much, though. Just need something heavy, dang it. How'd you do that? Do what? Orthographic views? Click down here. You can get blueprint views. Orthographic or isometric or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's one of the best parts about the KSP2 editor, dude. Box of rocks. Yeah, we might. Marvin will be our test pilot for when we do aborts a little bit later. We'll just leave Marvin over there for now. What I'll do is I'll take, do we have another probe core? The Hex, that one is 112. 109, 42, 82. That one's 205. That's too big. We're not putting the rover chassis in there. That's 156. 253, 502, 1.1, 20, 120 on the RGU. What about you? Let's just see where this gets us. All right, so say I did put a flight computer down here. Yeah, it's not really much of an improvement, dudes. But the real question is, will it actually fit down there and not clip into the Kerbals too much? I'm trying to look through the windows here, see if we can... That's the bottom of the Kerbal seats right there. Does that... Nope. Nope. No good. Yeah, so I'm kind of looking around for what would be the heaviest. What's the heaviest extra small probe that we have? The Hex one is the heaviest. It does have some roll control torque. But yeah, we'll can we... Nope, we got to make a plate for it to attach to. So we'll use a panel. What was that small probe? Actually, Marvin is one of the lightest probes in the game. Didn't even notice that. 42, 82 is the square. No, you don't want that. Yeah, I think the Octo, the Hex 1 is probably going to be the one that we want. Yeah, let's use that. That with a panel should definitely add some mass here. And does the thing fit underneath here? Let's take a look. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does. Here, how about we take this and we rotate it to see if we can get that thing down low. And then it looks like a storage pallet underneath. They do this kind of stuff with Dragon. Underneath where the astronauts are sitting, like so, towards the heat shield, they actually pack cargo down there. We don't want this to clip into the balls, though, because, you know, conservation of mass and whatnot. There we go. Does that clip into the balls? That's important. We don't want to clip the balls. That's bad. Yeah, it does a little bit. It does just a little bit. So let's go up with it, and we go forward a little ways. Right there. There we go. Sweet. Plenty of space. Excellent. All right, so we might need to go in here and check how we're... Can we... Yeah. The control point from the capsule... The control point from this is going to be a little bit strange. We might want to put this so the control point is more or less in line. So instead of doing it like that, we'd probably want to do this way. Yeah, that's not ideal. So how about we move the plate up a little bit, and then we move the probe cord down a little bit on its mount. That's good. That's good enough to not clip into the balls. That's fine. And then if we just move it a little ways, just a little ways forward, it looks like it's all kind of tied together structurally. Actually, move them back just a little bit. Make it look like a mount for said balls. There we go. Clip walls, not balls. Yep. Yep. We're going to start a global movement. Yeah, seat warmer. Now, we just got to be cognizant that our control point is going to be a little bit different. But I can solve that problem. We'll solve that problem by using the capsule itself or the docking port. It's just that's going to be a problem. It might default control to the control to this thing when nobody's in the capsule. If we're piloting it remotely, we just got to make sure. So that's fine. Now, where does that get us? Oh, yeah, we're below that second rivet. I'd say that's good. This is good. Another thing we could do, just on a side note, is make it look like these pieces are mounted on plates. We could make it look like the RCS and everything is mounted on plates, and that would get our mass down a little bit lower, but nah, I'm good with this. The hatches, there's a clear exit to the hatch, and the interior looks good, and I mean, up here should be hollow anyway, so. All right, guys, we'll roll with this. Let's roll with that. Let's see if that's good enough. So the next thing we need is the heat shield, obviously. And you got to be careful here with the heat shield. The heat shield, like KSP-1, has actually 2 attachment points. You really want to make sure you're going to attach to the right point. It took me a really long time to figure this out in KSP. If you attach one nose cone, that one nose cone is for the shroud, but there is another one in there. Or at least there was last time I checked. Maybe not. Maybe they took that out. There was 2 before, and I could have sworn I attached 2 nodes in here, but that's fine. Well, it not being there is good, so just ignore what I just said. So we need our stack decoupler. There we go. Don't forget to paint the pod chrome. Taste the chrome. You want that chrome? All right. Fine. Fine. Now, that is the quick and simple way of doing it, right? Does the heat shield move the center of mass back too much? It looks to be kind of a slight upward and lateral shift backwards. That actually should be good. Moving it lower like that is a good thing. And as it ablates off, you know, when they put re-entry in, as it ablates, the center of mass will move back over here somewhere, or it'll move down here. Don't forget monoprop will deplete, so there's less weight there. Yeah, if it deplete, this is really only for a specific time during re-entry, Sam. So, yeah, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. That should be fine. Yeah, that should be good. I think I'm pretty sure it'll do that. Yeah, we'll definitely find out. Like, once again, at some point you just got to be like, okay, let's try this. I think this should work, and then you have to go frick around and find out, you know. That looks good, man. Nice capsule. Nice capsule. And if we put the shroud on there, yeah, it covers the heat shield completely. Wasn't that too close in the other? I hope this gets you enough deflection. Maybe put in the center of lift. I mean, there's more stuff down there than there was last time, Aqualex, so this is going to do something different. I know that. I don't know whether it's an adequate amount of deflection or not. I suppose we'll find out. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. So now what I want, let's try it. You know, we could do that, and that'll give us the shroud, and I could take the heat shield, and we could shut the fairing off, and then we could do something cool. This is how I used to make service modules in KSP-1. We could make a little fairing action here, right? And then we could do, right, if we actually get rid of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Click that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1. Oh. Okay. The increments for moving the fairings is not the same. Oh, look at that. Now we got a chrome shroud, baby. So take the fairing. We don't want a clamshell. We just want a shroud. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice, dude. Very nice. Yep, Dustin, we got March 22nd. Yep. So, This fairing I don't really want staged per se, so let's start staging. Drogue chutes. Fairing goes up at the top. We don't need that. And then our decoupler is right there, right? And then get rid of this. We don't need that stage right now. And then we'll get rid of Marvin. Marvin's the test pilot. We'll make him later. So this gave us a chrome shroud to kind of make it look a little bit nicer. So what I'm going to do here is we'll... Oh, that's still not a thing. All right, that's cool. So what we'll do is this. Let me grab a couple of struts right here, and then we will strut. Oh, you can't strut to the heat shield. Interesting. So we'll strut to the capsule. That's fine. I did not click on the part action window. Okay. At least I don't think I did. I may have fat fingered it. So heat shields often, to mount a capsule on a heat shield correctly, right? There's just basically a bolt that goes through a little point on the heat shield. Basically how these struts are going to do this, right? And then you take this and see that? That's pretty trick. That's pretty trick. That'll make it so our shroud won't jettison when we separate. It'll look like an actual service module separating, which is cool. That's really cool. Okay, so the RCS on the capsule, I basically want, we don't want port starboard, and we basically want the thrusters off for the time being. We'll turn those on when we're going through re-entry. So now to the service module. The last service module that I made for this thing, which I thought was pretty damn good, was made out of cargo containers. And then I do believe we just filled these bad boys up with monopropellant and stuff. So I just found out a few days ago the Artemis mission's basically the new Apollo missions. Sick. Huzzy. Apollo, or Artemis 1 was amazing, dude. We watched that on stream. It was awesome. Awesome. Just remembered we don't have the Wolfhound. You can use a Terrier and get away with it. It's not a big deal. So I don't want these things particularly to move. They're not cargo bays. I'm using them as a structural carrier for the service module. But yeah, so now we got to figure out how are we going to put this together. So what I had at the very bottom of the service module was not a fairing. We put an engine plate down at the bottom. Oh yeah. And then attached to our engine plate. So the engine plate is good because we have multiple attachment nodes. Now, let's see. The Terrier is what I used before. 335 at 60, which is great. And the Terrier is only 500 kilos. That's a really good motor. Any other options in here? Any other things to consider? I don't think so. That would be nice, but no, it's too heavy. 320, 215. The Poodle might not be the worst. This thing looks like a trans stage now. Jeez. Boosters. It looks like a Titan. It looks like a Titan 3 trans stage. Hypergolic upper stage. Poodle gives you 340. I wish we had the single engine variant. I would consider it, but the Poodle is 1,700 kilos. I'm thinking the Terrier is going to end up getting us more Delta V. I'll just use that again for simplicity's sake. Just pretend it has a vacuum optimized nozzle on it. Did you check out the new post on the forums? Yeah, I did. Midodo, yeah. It's, there you go. Today is Friday. But one day it'll be Fry Your Ship Day. In California. Yeah, there you go. Look, see? Pretty cool, huh? 2 Terriers? I don't think we need crazy TWR for the capsule, to be honest with you. Now, how I did the capsule previously was like this. Here, hold on. Let me separate this for a second. I want Put a nose cone on the attachment point where the other payload bay is going to attach. And then I want a nose cone right there because I want to make sure that the tank is attaching to the front. Like that. And now, we go in here and we get rid of the nose cone. Because that will make it so we can attach the payload bay. So, that gives us 900 meters a second delta V. Not bad. Not bad at all. We can do better. So, we're going to need to add monopropellant. I like to have a hefty amount of this stuff. I don't know about you guys. So, I want 4 of these big old monoprop tanks in here. That, we lost us 100 meters a second delta V doing that. So now, we can make up for it by maybe putting some of those in here. $11.89. Not bad. It's pretty good, dude. $11.89 is actually real good. I mean, we got to put RCS on it and stuff, but that's really not too bad. Hey, Snackless, what's going on? There, I'm going to try to see if we can put in... See if we can take some of the shader out of it, make it... Ah, yeah, there we go. Not bad. Not bad at all. That's actually really nice. Begging for a super short 2.5 to 1.25 converter for that Terrier for the crispness. I actually like it flat mounted like that. I think that looks cool. In fact, Arsenal, if it had a bigger nozzle, dude, here's what I would do. I would do this. I'd do the opposite of what you're saying. But I don't mind having the shrouds on there and stuff. I think that's cool. Good, been busy working in school. Every moment I'm not doing that, I'm trying to get hours to pay for flight school. How goes Kerbal 2? Good, Snack. Listen, it's good that you're doing that, dude. Good job. I really hope they had a foil texture and a foam texture. Yeah, that'd be good. Matt, so I just made one of these capsules with an offset COM. Test landed it in the ocean, and even though the SAS RCS are off without any control point, it started rolling end over end. Known glitch, dude. Yeah, they're still trying to figure out the buoyancy physics. Water buoyancy will be dialed in, dude. And yeah, we know that because the we know that because words, EJ, come on. We know that because they put docs in the game, and I heard it from them. English, mother trucker, do you speak it? I was a little bit English. What? Joe, how have you been? Good, man. I saw 2 airworthy DC-9 and DC-8 sitting together yesterday, which is cool. Nice. They speak English in what? What? What ain't no country I ever heard of? Actually, you know, I actually might have a way to make this a little bit lighter. Take the engine plate off, get rid of this, right? And you know the fairing that we made? Why don't we make the bottom of the fairing our service module, right? So instead of doing this, take this. I don't necessarily want to attach the tank directly to it. How about we take that, get rid of that. I can consolidate this and we can make this look a lot nicer. The reason why I want the tank there is because we need to figure out the distance that oh, can't go any further than that. It won't let us go any further than that, but that coincidentally is the exact distance that we need. Perfect. Now, like my service module had a front bulkhead, and then I had a rear bulkhead in the form of the engine plate. Why the heck do we need that? No front bulkhead. Just make the fairing in with cargo bays in between. Just make the fairing the bulkhead. Easier. And if we make that a shroud that never deploys, then we don't have to worry about it. Oh, that's slick. Very, very slick. Is there something I can do for you, Slick? Yeah, I like this. This is very good. This capsule's gonna shine, man. She's gonna shine. Very nice. You know, we probably should put some texture on that. Let's set it to 4x symmetry so it doesn't look completely blank. Okay, so now what we could do is I can attach the tank in here like this, right? And if we go into ortho, right, we could set the tank to be right on the center line. That's good enough. And then if we... much better. Take the tank, move that right there. Right? And then we could just put the same monoprop tanks that we just had in there. And this actually ends up being so much lighter because we don't have any of the cargo bays, which should give me more delta V. Hopefully it works. We're going to need to test. We may have to blast. I mean test. I mean Blastoise? Actually, yeah, you get the... It looks like anodized. The tanks look like they're nice anodized, right? Banana, a blessed? Huh? And the reason why I'm making a bunch of tanks wrapped around each other like this, guys, is because that's pretty much how service modules are. Service modules aren't one gigantic freaking fuel tank, because you have a bunch of systems down there on these things. We're gonna need to put batteries in here. We need batteries in here. We need fuel cells in here. We need fuel for said fuel cells. We also need fuel for engine. The engine, that's kind of important. There's a bunch of stuff that you need, so that's why I'm kind of compartmentalizing everything. That's why I don't just use one big fuel tank, and why I choose to make it out of a fairing or something. Because A, that's lighter, and B, that's more realistic. That's what the real ones do. That's how real service modules are made. That's how service module work. So what we'll do with this design is I want to make like a forward bulkhead almost. We might be able to use the batteries. We can use a battery as our forward module, the forward bulkhead, instead. Actually, you know what? I don't exactly want to do that. I changed my mind just now. What happened to then? You missed it. When? Just now. Last. Also an EAA chapter. An hour goes building a plane. Oh, that's cool, man. Right on. Today on How They Do It. Plumbuses. Everyone has a plumbus in their home. When will then be now? Soon. All right, so you know what we can do? Let's put the fuel cells down at the bottom. And you know what? The thing is that how about we have the fuel cells on our service module charge the batteries on the capsule? Right? There's no need to put batteries on the service module, right? We already have batteries in the capsule to weigh it down, right? So why would we put batteries as a redundancy in the service module? It's not like the service module is going to be flying without the capsule attached to it. It will, but it won't be for very long, right? So that's actually a good idea. I want to do that. That's smart. He's smarted. You want to charge the batteries? Preposterous. All right, and make sure that the fuel cells are set to the on state, pretty much. Yeah. I love how you could set the conversion rate, so how quickly it generates power. That's actually cool. Kerbal 1 doesn't have that. Oh, nice, Rocket. There you go. All right, so this is good. We got everything here. I mean, I need the engine plate still, so we got to attach the engine plate to the back. So we kind of sandwich it together, but quite nice. And you know what we can do if we really want to get super fancy with this, right? We can take the plate and clip the plate through a little ways. How far can we clip that plate into the fairing? We want to get slick, make it look real nice. Yeah, we clip it like that. So now, why? Why am I doing that? Why does that make a difference? So check this out. What I'm gonna do? No, not the fairing. What I want to do is this.
Discovery.
I want to rotate it so the area between the tanks, like these structural areas, those areas, I want to keep those open for a second. And I want to align them with the up-down axis on the capsule. You can do that by just rotating the root, right? Hey, Simsim, 24-month resub, 2 years. Finally here again, working hard on my cars and studying ME. KSP2 came out in the meantime. Dude, don't play it. don't play it. It's a trap. So now what we should be able to do, right? It's not a locking point. We can attach those struts right there. And I'm going to attach them. I'm going to attach the struts from the engine plate to the capsule. Because that means the thing that's at the end of the capsule, the thing that's at the end of the plate here, which is going to be our structural attachment point to whatever we put behind this, that's basically strutted directly to the capsule. That makes it so the engine plate clamps anything in between the plate in the hierarchy in the capsule. So that means it's clamping the heat shield, the decoupler, the fairing, and the engine plate itself to the capsule. That'll make it so this thing won't wiggle around, despite being made out of fairing. It won't wiggle. No wiggly. And the struts will basically act as our structural bulkheads here. Because normally a service module like this would have a compartmentalized system. That's part of the reason why the Apollo 13 capsule didn't just blow up. Like right away. Where those life support system tanks were, was separated by a huge aluminum plate to any other tank so it wouldn't create a cascading failure. Instead, it would blow out and away from the capsule instead of blowing inward and hitting other systems. That's part of the reason why they survived. That's a good design doing it that way. That was pretty damn smart of the Apollo engineers, again. They designed the thing with a blowout panel, which is pretty smart. Yeah, those guys really knew what was good. All right, how's that for a service module? We'll call this batteries? The batteries are in the pod, Ned. We use them to offset the COM. Remember? Just need fuel cells in the service module. No need to add batteries. Saves us some mass. We do need RCS. Mikey, thanks for the prime sub, dude. Appreciate it. We'll call this the Kestrel 2 capsule. Kestrel was the name of my Apollo-style capsule in Kerbal 1. Kestrel 2, Block 1. General Purpose Command Service Module. Done. All right. We need RCS and
Discovery,
stuff.
go and throttle up.
Hey, twitching. 41 months. Be careful stirring the tanks up there. Yes. Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Oh. Wait. I don't want the shroud there. No, don't do this. Heat shield, why? Fine. I guess we'll just put a stripe in there. Game wants us to have a white stripe on the capsule. Whatever. We can easily adjust. No problem. Let me just make sure those struts are still running there. Yeah, I don't want those screwing up. And that's not facing in the right direction. They need to be like that. You can paint the heat shield shroud? I don't know. Oh, you can. Actually, you know what, Aqualux? That's not... I like this better because it kind of breaks up the shape a little bit. It makes it look a little bit more, like, spacey, I guess. Like, it looks like we have plates on it and stuff. I think that's cool. Alright, so... now we got to work on the front a little bit. What I'm going to do on the front of the capsules... obviously, we need a docking port, right? I like using the small docking port. You can be more precise with them. That's just personal preference. But if I try to go and attach this dang thing here every freaking time, it wants to lock into the front. We don't want that. So what I'll do is I'll take a nose cone, attach it to the front for now, move that over there. And then that docking port is not attached to the nose cone. Now what I'm going to do is get rid of the nose cone. And I'm going to take a docking port and attach it right here. The reason why I'm doing this is so we can go into orthographic view, right? And I know that because I lock this on to the center line, I know that that docking port's in the center of the vehicle. So all I got to do is just get these to clip into each other, right? And now we're good to go. So now what I'm going to do is take a nose cone. We attach the nose cone on that main attachment port again, and I'm going to attach a nose cone to the docking port. Now, why am I doing this? Why am I attaching all these nose cones? I'm blocking certain things. I want to make sure that my docking port is not actually attached to the front node on the pod. See, this pod has a node on the front. Why would I not want it attached to there? Well, docking ports aren't necessarily structural. Attaching the docking port the way I attached it is not going to be that big. It's not going to make that big of a difference. But what will make a difference is what I'm going to put here. What am I going to put here? Well, that's where our launch escape system is going. I want that on the main node because the launch escape system definitely needs to be structural to pull the capsule away. And I want the decoupler to go with it. And you can't radially attach decouplers. You can't surface attach them. They can only node attach. So I leave the node open for the decoupler. 33 minutes to the next launch. It should disappear when launching the craft, by the way, for future reference. What, that Shroud rocket guy? Oh. Well, you know what? Now I want it. So let's just keep it there. Well, Erudite, because we encountered problems with reusing craft files with a new patch, I'm basically remaking everything. So some of you guys have already seen me make this capsule, to be honest with you. Yeah, some of you have already seen me build this, but I redid it and I built it better based off of what I've learned from KSP. It should, yes. So if I toggle it to be enabled, Rocket Guy, is it going to work? My bad, 93 minutes until the next launch. I think enabled it will persist. Okay, cool. Yeah, Ned, the workplaces, I'm still not 100% sure how the workspaces work, but yeah. Yeah, I like going through Sloppy every once in a while and building out a tutorial capsule. I like doing this anyway. We're doing it for the challenge this time around, but I like doing it anyway because it keeps your building skills sharp. You know? Yeah, building, anytime you're using any type of editor program, CAD, could be Kerbal, could be Minecraft. You ever build something really cool in Redstone in Minecraft and then come back like a year later and look at it and say, what the frick was I doing? Yeah. I always like going through and sometimes just updating my designs based off of flight data, right? To keep my building skills sharp. All right, so now we need to add the RCS. So, okay, the RCS, where does this RCS need to go? Well, we decided that this RCS here is not going to be used until we're separated from the service module. So that means these ones need to be here for pitch, yaw, roll, translate, rotate, forward, translate, pitch, yaw, roll, up, down, left, right, forward, and back. And if we're going to do that, if we want thrusters to do that, they need to be on the center of mass. So we just got to gizmo these back a little ways and put them right there. Now they're on our center of mass. Now, if I fire that thruster and fire that thruster, we can pitch, vice versa. Firing that way will pitch up. We could switch it to that thruster and that thruster. That'll pitch down. We could roll by firing the left thruster on all these, right? And we can yaw by firing that one, or that one, and that one. This will give us any combination of flight, which is good. Good. Sloppy, I work in CAD daily, but KSP not so much. Thanks for all the infotainment. I'm glad you guys like it, dude. I'm glad people are into it, man. This is my, yeah. The building stuff and putting the vehicle together, that's my favorite, dude. This is my favorite part. Okay, so, very good. This is very good. We love it. We love it. Okay, okay, stop yelling. All right, so I needed, actually, we should take the nose cone off before we do that, just to be sure, because the nose cone isn't going to fly on the final one, but it didn't make that much of a difference. Let's just be absolutely sure, though. There, perfect. All right, so that's good. We got our capsule. Now, one thing that I wanted to add that we didn't add in the last, well, we did add in the last one, we added an S-band antenna. I want the capsule to have a short range antenna, because if the capsule and the service module to have a long range antenna, if the capsule is separated from the service module, that means we're re-entering towards Kerbal, so we don't need a long range antenna. The big antenna needs to be on the service module, because that's when the capsule is going to go further than just Kerbal, right? So yeah, we want, I'm going to put a short band in here where it basically is on the Apollo capsule. It's right there. It's built into the side. And I'll just make it stick out a little bit right there. Make it look nice. There we go. Good. And that makes it so I can also select it if I absolutely need to. See, like, I'm like kind of meh with parts clipping. I don't like to do it. But clipping a part like this makes sense. The antenna wouldn't be sticking out because this is a re-entry vehicle. It would actually be behind a panel or something. Just like a plane has its antennas behind the nose cone, right? Or its radar, I should say, but See? That looks like that belongs there. That's why that's cool. Won't that antenna revert the offset a bit? We could double check it, sure. Yes, it will. It's just probably a negligible amount. So let's just... It looks like it did shift it a little bit forward. Just a teeny weeny bit. Right there. Right there is good. And I love that we have orthographics to be able to measure it, which is actually sweet. But now, I mean, putting an antenna on the back of this thing also we might have a little bit of an issue. Like, what happens if we put a high gain on this thing? Like, derp-a-derp? Nope. Don't want that. The real one's antenna actually folds out from behind here and folds up. I'm not sure if I want that. We could just put ours there and be like, yerp. Or we could... So the real Apollo one is a directional antenna. They could change the direction of the thing. And we could have it folded down like this. That wouldn't be too bad. In real life, it was folded up against the nozzle. Right, and then boom, there we go. But we also kind of should have a forward-facing one, you know? Nah. We'll just call that good to go. Sweet. Maybe just to make this look a little bit nicer, just kind of clip it up against the engine shroud so it looks like it's mounted to something. Like that. So when we go to extend it, it doesn't clip so much. That's actually not bad. Why no, Wolfhound? They didn't put any of the making history or breaking ground parts into Kerbal 2 Hip Hop. I suspect, I could be wrong, I suspect that they will in the future, but not right now. Plume? Well, this thing is only going to be in the extended position. That's only there for when it's stowed, you know? Yeah. This looks good, man. I'm really happy with this. Yeah, Surge. People told us about that. I don't know. I guess I don't mind if this thing kind of clips up a little ways. I'm kind of worried that the top of the lander will be right here, and we got to be kind of careful with that. I don't mind if it just clips a little bit. Do you? You guys? It doesn't really bother me too much. I mean, it's not really that big of a difference, you know. Just keep it so it doesn't. Slavy, I'm just gonna keep it so it does. It's fine. It's okay. Not a big deal. Okay, cool. There we go. Good capsule. So now that it has all its components, I'm just gonna do a final check for balance over the RCS with the whole thing. Oh, I keep forgetting that right click is not... Yeah, it looks like the antenna... I want to move these back just a little ways. There we go. Perfect. Now that's how you make a capsule. We just got to make sure it works. That's kind of important. Sweet. What's our mission this time? Consort, we have a new Kerbal challenge. Your boy didn't get the Minmus one done. The new Kerbal challenge is to recreate Apollo 7, Apollo 8, and Apollo 11. And then... Val level challenge is to recreate your favorite rocket and land a crew on Duna and then return to Kerbin. Yep, they are, Admiral. Yep. 1.1K Delta V, mission accomplished, indeed. So what I'm going to do, I thought it would be cool, instead of just trying to do this challenge and going to Duna and back, that would be, So... I thought it'd be cool to go primary stretch, Jeb level, Val level. Because when we went to do last week's Minmus challenge, right? When we went to do last week's Minmus challenge, I was so focused on making Val level, I actually didn't complete any of the other goals. I don't want to just complete one goal. I want all of them. So, what we thought would be a cool idea, would be to, well, if we're going to recreate something like Apollo 7, something like Apollo 8, which is a free return lunar trajectory, and then something like Apollo 11, which is low lunar orbit circularization and then landing with a lander, like what we basically did when the game came out, right? If we're going to do something like that, why don't I actually do the Apollo 7 mission with Apollo-styled hardware? And then do the Apollo 8 mission with something like a Saturn V, and do Apollo 11 with a Saturn V and a lander. Why don't we do that? Well, and then when we go to do the Duna mission, getting to the surface of Duna and back, why don't we go Apollo Applications Program? AAP. Use the things that we used for these other goals to create architecture like this. Basically, something, if you're unfamiliar with it, chat, it's the Apollo Applications Program. The Apollo Applications Program was basically where the Apollo program was going to go after NASA landed on the moon. It included making lunar bases, long duration exploration bases around the moon, Venus flyby, escape systems, space stations. Part of the Apollo Applications Program actually happened in the form of Skylab. Good to know. Apollo-Soyuz test project was part of the AAP, and a bunch of other things. Missions to Mars, missions to Venus, stuff like that. Wonder what an Apollo Mars lander would look like. Something like the LEM, dude. Something like the LEM, but with a heat shield. So think something like Curiosity, dude. Actually, here's the thing. You don't even need to think like Curiosity. If you wanted to send... If we're going to do Mars exploration in real life, you don't want to send somebody on a one-way trip to the Martian surface, right? That makes no sense. I wouldn't do that. You would want to capture. You'd want to capture Mars, just like we didn't send the Mike, Buzz, and Neil on a direct descent to the lunar surface from trans-Earth injection, right? They circularized, and then they went down. If you do that on Mars, you actually don't need a heat shield. Yeah, Mars' atmosphere is so ridiculously thin. If you go from low Martian orbit down to the surface, you won't need a heat shield. Yeah, I mean, some thermal protection, obviously, for like when you're down on the ground, but you don't need like an ablator. So I know what people are going to say. What about Curiosity? What about Perseverance? Why did those need a heat shield? Those needed a heat shield because they were basically a direct descent to Mars from Earth. That's why. That's why you need a heat shield. Low Mars orbit to surface is like SR-71 heating. Bingo. You need to make something more like an airplane with rocket engines. So the LEM could do it. The LEM could go down onto the surface. Sure, why not? With some parachutes and then a powered descent, you could probably do it. I'm not sure if that's exactly what they had in mind, but we could do that. We could absolutely do that. Something like that, Bing Bong, yeah. Is heat in the game now? No, but it's coming. The developers showed us a picture of heating on the craft and what it looks like. Pretty cool, huh? Is it more simple to not have to circularize? Well, yeah, Jay. But now you need a heat shield. Pretty cool, huh? All right. Anyway, now that this capsule is kind of good to go, I'm going to finish up the escape system here. And what I will do is... Nope, too big. We need... Need to move that over here. Because I need this. And note that I turn the decoupler in the opposite direction. Right? And then we take the docking port and we move the docking port back into position. Right? And now let's get our launch escape system. Make sure that if we select the decoupler, we select the launch escape system. There we go. Decoupler, LES. Get rid of that. And now The thing about it is what we did with this thing. Hang on. What I did with the launch escape system is I wanted it to have a little bit more kick. So we put thrusters, we put an added thrust system on here. And then I moved these actually down here to work like traction motors. So when we separate this, it just, yeah, looks good. There we go. You don't want your motors to be pointed directly at the capsule. I'm pretty sure the windows on the capsule don't want to be blasted with rocket exhaust. There we go. Yeah, like I said, I have the separator motors. We would normally engineer this out, but I put the extra separator motors on there because I know that this is enough to get you a good launch escape. This gets us off the pad, off the pad better. Hey, Cats, what's going on? What do you think of the Axiom spacesuits? It look all right to me. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so now what we're gonna do. Now, guys, we need Marvin, because we need to do... Well, we don't actually need Marvin on board because we have a probe course, so... You know what? Marvin can come with us on the operational missions. So what we're going to do now is take the Kestrel capsule, and we're going to put it into a pad abort config. And we're going to test our escape system. There. Okay. Cool. We're going to test the launch abort system. Let's do a pad abort, make sure that all works correctly. So, save this. Kestrel capsule 2. Perfect. Cats, we're working on the new KSP challenge. So, the LES is called the bottle rocket. Nice. Alright, let's try this with 100% right off the bat. Let's see where it takes us. Save it. Alright, let's get out to... We'll use Launchpad 1. It's fine. Do we have chutes? I do, consort. Yep. Mm-hmm. So, what's the launch escape system? Oh, Bill just decided to sneak aboard. That's good. What does the launch escape system do? Why? Why do we have it? The launch escape system is there in case something goes very wrong. And if something goes very wrong, that means you can do this. Except it really should take the capsule with it. This is why we do tests. It's supposed to take the capsule with it, not just eject. I forgot to add that. Dude, that's awesome. See, even me with all my professionalness, like, oh yeah, this is how you build the capsule. I still forget stuff, dude. That happens, man. That happens, dude. It's a thing. It absolutely is a thing. Dude, you guys want to see something cool? Want to see something funny? Watch this. Guys, take a look at this. Want to see something funny? This is Mercury Redstone 1, the first test of the Mercury capsule on top of a Redstone missile from LC5. Watch this. See? It happens to the best of us. Just spot. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy on the ground. Seriously, they went to light the rocket and a short actually fired the launch escape system. It triggered the computer, or triggered the electronics for the launch escape system. And the whole rocket thought it aborted off the pad, so it shut the engine off, dumped the launch escape system, and then the parachute popped out. Boop! Check your staging, NASA. See? It doesn't just happen to me. That happens to everybody. I swear. Q-Spot, this is $5 to pay for Bill's staging recertification. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Bill, get the frick out of there, man. It had basically analog in it, yeah. Very primitive stuff, Dave, yeah. Ramsey, you were going to ask if something like that ever happened? Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's definitely happened before, dude. Clip it and ship it. Yeah, it's not supposed to do that. We need this decoupler down here. Not that decoupler. That decoupler comes later. All right, so we're in config for the abort. Actually, you know what? You know what would probably be a good idea? I'll keep that staging the same, okay? I'll keep the staging the same. How about we actually put it into an action group? How about we put it into the abort action group? Coupling. We need the decouple from there. We need engines. We need the bottle rocket. Toggle enable seems to be what makes that work. Okay, so it's going to decouple the heat shield decoupler. We're going to fly up. 4 Separatrons, bottle rocket. Good. That's bound up. What happened with the Mercury 1 Redstone capsule? They reused it. They reused it, put it on again, and launched MR2. MR2, Mercury Redstone 2, had a chimpanzee on it, if I'm remembering right. It had ham on it. Yep, they launched ham. He survived, actually, and then actually lived a super long life after that. Maybe they did 1A. I forget, dude. Oh, yeah, they did 1A. 1A, they tested it right after that. There you go. MR1A. Nice. Yeah, MR2 had ham. Ham actually flew, and he liked it. Yeah, you see? What a G. Look at that thing. And then, like I said, he lived... Yeah, there's the MR2 capsule at the California Science Center. He actually lived for a long time after that. Ham lived until 1983. Cool, right? And if, you know, I know that I know that if some people are looking at that and said, "Oh my God, that's so inhumane. Why would you do that?" Well, first of all, he's not human. That's terrible. Why would you do that? Well, yeah, I'm not going to say that that was the coolest thing to do. We could just use an anthropomorphic test dummy nowadays and probably achieve the same result. You do not want to know what the Soviets did. If you think that's bad, you don't want to know what the Soviets did. It's worse. It's way worse. You don't want to know. If you think that's bad, you do not want to know what the Soviets did. Nope. I'm not saying nothing. I don't know. Nobody tells me nothing. Like, yeah. The Soviets' test device did not come back. Read that. Read into that for what you might. Let's try this again, and let's actually use the abort group. Yeah, Arsenal, right? Yeah. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, get back here. Hey, it worked. Nice. LES jettison, drogue shoots, and mains. Slow down. Nice. It's not really how I wanted that to come down, though. They would have survived that, for sure. But, yeah, let's, that was a good test. Let's go back. Stable 1.5, I guess? Yeah, you don't want that. I want it to come down on the heat shield. So, you know what we'll do? I'm going to adjust my thrust here. We're going to adjust the thrust on the launch escape system. I'm going to set it to 50. Adjusting the thrust output on this thing will actually make the burn time a little bit longer. And if we have that, we need high TWR. It needs to get away. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, setting it to 75 would probably be good. That'll give us a slightly longer burn time. And that'll make it so the capsule flies on a little bit of a higher arc. We just don't have the TWR, but it still should be good enough. Also, it's good to know that the abort key worked right away. Use the realistic height as if it were on top of the entire rocket stack. Well, Kebab, we could do that. I mean, in real life, this thing's going to be, in reality, not in real life, when we get to build it, it's going to be up here somewhere. But here's the thing. If I design it to work well down here, it's absolutely going to work well up there. Bill wants to fly on this one. All right, man. Have fun. Ugh. Well, we can take solace in the fact that that really didn't make that much of a difference. It literally did the same thing. Maybe spin it a bit. What I'm thinking, fellas, is actually give the Separatrons a longer burn time. If I load down the Separatrons with a little bit more Delta V, or a little bit more thrust, or, oh, a little bit more fuel, not Delta V. If we load them down with a little bit more fuel, they're going to burn on a much longer duration and get the capsule to go a little bit higher. So, I'm going to, their fuel on the previous capsule was right here. It was down at 0.12, or 0.012. I'm going to put it to half. That should get us a little bit of a longer duration burn. Let's see if that works. Is that your offset weight causing that? This launch escape system actually shoots, it shoots asymmetric thrust for a second, Repo. Yeah, kind of. But not really, no. It's this. I mean, I'm sure that affects the flight a little bit, obviously, right? But, yeah, that's part of the reason why you don't want it to go too far, but this should work. Ready? All right, ready? Bill, have fun. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boosters at a... Bill, how you doing? You okay? I don't think the Separatrons made us go particularly higher there. We got to 300... We got to 134 meters. I probably should have checked what the other ones were. The Separatrons did seem to stabilize us out, so the capsule, when it's separated with the parachutes facing straight up. And that's not a bad thing. I think I want to see it one more time, dudes. If you don't mind. Well, that was a short trip. Yeah, that was short trip. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Pigzig. Let's see it again. Ready? 3, 2... 1. Boosted. It did literally the exact same thing. What was our... Yeah, 133 that time. That was perfect. There was a 134 before. I think the difference is that I had the SAS off. Yeah, it slows down. Exactly, Dave. So maybe we should lower the burn time on the Separatrons just a little bit, because they were actually slowing us down, and they definitely made us not fly as high. So 134 is where we got before. Let's see what it does now. Yeah, Towerful, if we just take a little bit out of those seps, I think you're right, dude. Take a little bit out of the separators. We should be good. Can we go... Let's go 0.024. Let's try that one first. Let's just incremental changes. Can you adjust the Separatrons to counteract the spin? What spin? What are you talking about? Oh, to make sure that it goes straight up? I actually kind of want it to go kind of out and away. You don't want the launch escape system to go straight up, because if if you're aborting from the rocket and the rocket engines are still firing and you go straight, the rocket's catching you very, very fast. You don't want that. You don't want that at all. All right. Test number 4. We're aiming to go above 134 meter. Ready? 1, 2, 3, send it. Good. How far did we fly that time? See? Nice, dude. Nice. Very good. I would say maybe even a little bit less. Just a tiny bit less on that. What's the max G? 8.7? Par for the course for a launch escape system, to be honest. The launch escape system is going to beat you up pretty hard. You're going to definitely feel it the next day, but at least there will be a next day. Now, J-Nick, I'm going to do one last test just to make sure. I'm going to go here like this. Let's go down to 0.18. Send it again. All right. Test number 5. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in... 162. I wouldn't go above 9G sustained alleviate for a launch escape system. That's when the human body starts to do bad stuff. We did go a little further, but I screwed up, guys. I didn't jettison the parachutes because I was watching our apogee. You got to make sure you pull the parachutes right before you start going down. So let's just do one more test just to be absolutely sure. Test number 6. There we go, like right there. And that gives the capsule more time to stabilize out. That's perfect, dudes. Good. And Bill lives another day. Oh, the material. Listen, the footstep noises change. Oh, very nice. What's that little pavilion over there? Fuel farm. It's the fuel tanks and stuff, dude. For the pad. They modeled all the GSE, which is actually really neat. Good. Good. Very good. Now the next step is to do an in-flight abort. So, that's a pad abort. The next step would be to do an abort procedure at one of the most dangerous spots during ascent. So what you want to do here for this type of engineering is you want to figure out what's the most dangerous spot. Well, the most dangerous spot to do an in-flight abort would be at maximum dynamic pressure, right? So put a high max Q on the rocket, basically really, really get going, and then abort and see if you can A, get away from the rocket, and B, fight the aero forces, right? So, what we're going to do here, I'm going to save that. Kestrel capsule, IFA. We just want to get to a pretty high dynamic pressure. I'd say get it to 50,000 Pascal, and then just, if we can abort with 50,000 Pascal, any rocket we make for this will be just fine. Yeah, they did this in real life with a rocket called Little Joe 2, or Little Joe 2, which is technically part of the Saturn family of rockets. Check this out, dudes. Thank you for linking it. I was actually going to.
The spacecraft would be sitting.
All right, so what they ended up doing out at White Sands, they ended up basically strapping a bunch of SRBs underneath the capsule, a dud Apollo capsule with a dud service module, right, and a real launch escape system. They ended up taking that, right, and launching it up in the desert. Now watch this. I'm just going to let this play. This part gets awesome, all right? If you haven't seen this, this is really cool.
Up to about
So,
10,000.
just listen.
Then fire the escape rocket to pull the command module away from the other device.
One, fire.
This time, they had made a little mistake in how they hooked up the roll gyros. And the vehicle started to roll. When it broke the link on the escape rocket. Escape rocket fired, pulled the command module right off the top. It was a perfectly successful flight, very well instrumented flight, gave us all the data we needed about the launch escape system, but the vehicle had failed in the process.
One of the best failures you could have.
Ironically, the unanticipated failure of the Little Joe rocket provided the best possible test for the escape system.
So the test rocket that they used to test the in-flight abort for the Apollo program actually blew up. It broke. It started rolling in the centrifugal force. The structure couldn't hold that that angular momentum, so it ripped the thing apart, and it triggered the launch escape system, and that's how they got the data for in-flight aborts for the Apollo program. That's how they did it, from a rocket that failed, but it was supposed to fail because it's an in-flight abort.
When it broke the link on the escape rocket. Escape rocket.
That's
fired,
so good,
pulled the
man.
command module right off the top.
Does that look like Kerbal or what? That looks like a failed rocket. The SRB is just, Task failed successfully, man.
Successful flight. Very well instrumented flight. Gave us all the data we needed about the launch escape system.
So,
but the vehicle had failed in the process.
So, the other reason why I put the extra separatrons on there is so you can have a separator. You could have the separation system in case the for later. Actually, the decoupler's a separator. I put the separatrons on there to give it a little bit more oomph, but I could make it so the separatrons could be used in the separation mechanism, not the actual launch escape system. But I'm talking to myself on stream, and yep, whatever. Don't worry about it. But yeah, we have a second set. That's why I put another set of Separatrons, because this thing just wasn't getting the TWR that I want. But we're good now. We are good now. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do that. We're going to do that exact test. I'll make something exactly like Little Joe here, the Little Joe rocket, and we'll shoot this thing off like a firecracker and see what happens. So here's what we'll do. I'm going to save this. Kestrel capsule, IFA. All right. Okay, give me the music back. So now, let's give us a little bit of altitude here. Now, we don't necessarily need a big service module for this. We could empty out the service module, but we don't have cost, and I don't feel like going in there and making a dud service module. Screw that. Just use the real one. It's not career mode, right? So, excuse me. What we'll do here is basically exactly what we already have. So we got 1 hour until SES 18 and 19 here, so that's what we'll work on. Give me a stack decoupler, right? And then set the engine. Set the engine fairing to, or the engine shroud to basically be like that. That's fine. Make it as small as you can. It doesn't need to be large. That's fine. Okay, so what I will do now is go in here. Word. Cool. Alright. So now, sorry if someone already asked, but do you have any idea what two objects could be seen today on Starlink at 4 minute 20 seconds and 4 minute 35? Ice. Well, not ice. Solid nitrogen and solid oxygen, dude. That's what it is. When the RCS outgasses, it, sometimes that gas, it basically does the same thing if somebody that you know, like, that vapes is blowing rings. Literally that, but when you do that into the vacuum, it'll create a ring-shaped piece of solid nitrogen. I keep saying ice. It's not really ice. But you get the idea. Are Kerbals just white-collar minions? Yeah, sure. White-collar minions. I like that. That's pretty funny. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, hold that fairing right there so we can see inside of it. Now we're gonna need some kick. Alright, we don't need that fairing to deploy. I don't want that. We do want that decoupler, but now what we want to get some of our fun, fancy tools out here. How much thrust do these make? 227. Alright. Lil Joe is basically a bunch of SRBs just clustered together like this, dudes. That's all it is. We could put these in here like this, and then, yeah, there we go. Heck, this fairing doesn't even need to be this long. But then again, oh, we gotta make it look cool. We're going down. We gotta make it look cool. Are those things not pointed straight up? Can you make it spin apart? I could. I'm gonna make sure that those are actually like straight up here. There we go. There we go. Here, let's take a look. So Lil Joe, like I said, it's just a bunch of SRBs kind of clustered together in one thrust structure. Yeah, see? See what I mean? Just 4 SRBs. And then, yeah, Castor and Pollux, right? And then they had little tinier engines in there as well. I think the tinier SRBs were Vernier motors or something. I'm not 100% sure on that one. So what happened to Lil Joe 1? I forget what Lil Joe 1 was used for. I think Lil Joe 1 was used for the Gemini Mercury, not Gemini. Gemini didn't have a launch escape system, believe it or not. Yeah, see? It's just a bunch of SRBs just kind of shoehorned together. SpaceX audio is online. Cool. How much TWR does 4 thumpers give us? 2.96. That will work. Yeah, 4 thumpers are going to do the job. That will work just fine. So what I'll do is, to make sure that this thing doesn't do what that abort test that I just showed you, make sure it doesn't do that, I'm going to take struts from the fairing. We're going to strut from fairing to decoupler. To make sure that that's nice and strong. And then, from the top of the SRBs, to make sure that those don't drift around inside of the fairing, I will attach an a strut from SRB to decoupler. That'll make this thing nice and strong. And what we could do to just make this look actually really cool, if we rotate it 3 clicks, so we rotate it 45 degrees, what we could do is could take the flea and we could make the flea nozzles kind of point out like that, but oh, you know what? We actually don't have the smaller SRBs in here. Ah, that sucks. There's a smaller 1.8 meter SRB that you could put in here that's in Kerbal 1, but we don't have it, so we'll just use these. That's fine. There we go. Separatrons it is. We could do that too, sure. Oh, I wish we had those 1.8s, man. I mean, this thing's gonna be a heck of a light show when it goes off, I'll tell you that. What did that up our TWR to? Probably wasn't much, 2.9. Okay, so Lil Joe also had fins on it because, yeah, you're gonna need those. So, what I'll do is we will get some stabilizers here. Actually, you know what? Are those small stabs? We need the extra small. And we will start configuring the extra small stabilizers. Now, once again, you know what the cool thing is with these procedural wings, that we can make these wings look exactly like Lil Joe 2's wings. We can make it look exactly the same, which is really freaking cool. There we go. We're watching the other launch? Of course we are. Put them at an angle for some induced roll. Yeah, those actually don't look exactly like them. They're close. We'd need another wing. We need to use 2 procedural wings. I don't want procedural tanks, to be honest with you, Panta. Too much procedural stuff is... yeah. Takes the fun out of engineering stuff, dude. Hey, Urban. What's up, dude? Can you make it disintegrate like the real one? People keep asking me that. Alright, so now... I honestly am not 100% sure what's about to happen. This should work. Should. Yeah. All right. You know what, Bill? I don't want you on this right now. Let's just... Okay. Okay. Ready? Whoa! Okay, that's fast. My brains are going into my feet. Okay, that's max Q. Oh my god! Woo! Wow. That was gnarly, dude. Okay, drogue chutes are primed. Please. There we go. We got 2 drogues. Holy cow, that was nuts. Main chute. We got good inflation on the main chutes. Wow. How much G's did we freaking go? 7G. Wow. That was nuts, dude. That thing really got going fast, man. I wonder if it rocks and rolls as much as real life. It absolutely does, Mab. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, 7Gs. Very nice. Dude, we got away from that thing at max Q at max TWR. That's really good. 38,000. I mean, I was thinking 50 might be good, but 38 is fine. And considering the TWR on the rocket that I'm going to make for this is going to come nowhere near what that thing was, I think we're good. The dynamic pressure was at 38,000 pascals, and I hit it right at max Q. I don't think any rocket we make is going to hit 38,000 pascals on ascent. You don't really want to go that high. your rocket's going to create too much drag and you're putting compression load on the vehicle. You pulled as many G as you broke the spaghetti. No, we didn't break a spaghetti, we broke the rocket. I have 95. See that? Patch 2 is they're already putting stuff in patch 2, which is unbelievable. This dev team's on a freaking roll, dude. You're made of spaghetti, Penta. Now, guys, what I'm probably going to do with these struts is push them in a little bit so they're not sticking out as much. I don't like that. That was really good, man. Really good. So what was NASA smoking when they were like, hey, let's put ejector seats in? Peace of mind, Green Dragon. We'll go with peace of mind and call it a day. Yeah, it's just like the ejector seats on the Gemini capsule are about as useful as the ejector seats on the shuttle. 40 seconds into a shuttle flight, if you tried to, anywhere after 40 seconds, you try to use that ejector seat, it'll kill you instantly. The oncoming air will just liquefy you. Like, the ejector seats were good for like maybe the first 30 to 40 seconds at best. And even getting towards 40 seconds. I mean, 40 seconds, the shuttle's already higher than pretty much every jetliner. I mean, that thing gets out of the hole real fast, man. And before that, SRB Plume Barbecue.
Discovery,
Yeah, right?
go at
Hey, Phone Sister, what's going on? There's good spikes for snow landing. Body can do that? Oh, yeah. Vaporized. Vaporized element blown out to sea. Blown out to sea. Yeah, vaporized. A body can do that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe Aqualux, yeah. Weren't the ejector seats only good for pretty much clearing the launch tower? Yeah, Mav. After that, I mean, yeah. Considering. They were SR-71 ejector seats, believe it or not, guys. Yeah, they're the seats from the SR-71. A lot of SR-71 tech went into the shuttle. Yeah, a lot of SR-71 stuff found its way into the shuttle. Like the suits, for instance. The orange suits. That's SR-71 derived, dude. Yeah, Alpha actually didn't know that, but that's actually funny. With Gemini, it was reasoned that the hypergolic fuels of Titan II would not produce as big of an explosion as the Kerbal's Atlas rocket, so ejector seats were deemed sufficient. I guess that makes sense in, like, a Fallout, Fallout universe, the game, like, risk assessment. Well, guess what? This explosion doesn't explode as much as the other one. Hey, you don't need a launch escape system. It doesn't explode as good. So ejector seats are fine. It's like, what? Really? All right. I mean, it's hypergolic. I mean, technically, that's not wrong. That's not wrong. Kerosene is way more explosive than hypergols are. Way more. You could tell just by the specific impulse. Specific impulse is lower, gets you a much more energetic reaction. But hypergols are almost, yeah, they're not as efficient, right? But I mean, in some cases, I mean, I guess with an LR87, like, but still, like, even that aside, hold on, that train of thought sucks. If it explodes and you eject into the plume, you die. Like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm sorry, what? Alright. Choose your death, I guess? Like, you know what, Joe? If I'm riding on a hypergolic rocket, I'm going down with the ship. I'm going down with the ship. I'll trigger the separation of the capsule. I'll go down with the ship. I'd rather do that. I would, honestly, dude, I'll take my chances with a damaged capsule where the parachutes might not deploy over an ejector seat that's going to eject you into a hypergolic explosion. Like, I'll go with the capsule. Thank you very much, man. Like, yeah, let's just do that. You know what? To be fair, Fallout was an exaggeration of Cold War attitudes. Yeah, exactly. Well, that explosion's not as bad. It's not as big. We don't need it. We don't need a launch escape system. Ejector seats will do just fine. You got a spacesuit on, don't you, son? What? KSP needs ejector seats? I agree. I agree. I think the plane cockpits should have, like these guys, they should have ejector seats. Maybe not the shuttle cockpit. I mean, what fuel isn't hazardous to your health? I mean, yeah, there's also that. Like, you know, explosion aside, like, yeah, okay. I also wonder if the added mass of the LES would have been too much for the Titan II. I mean, Alpha, that would be my guess. That would be my guess, dude. Honestly, why would you even explore ejector seats? Or why would you even want why would you want a justification for an ejection seat? What's the justification there? The justification for an ejector seat is that sounds like the type of solution that you would want if a launch escape system is too heavy. Because Max Fizet designed that Gemini capsule. He wasn't an idiot. He's a famous spacecraft designer. Max Fizet designed that. That sounds like a launch escape system is too heavy for Titan and we don't have the Delta V to do it, so we need to put ejector seats in instead. And then it sounds like they came up with a justification for doing that, which sounds a lot like the early space program to me. Nowadays, no. Nowadays, that's not too smart. You die. Death is bad. We don't want that. Elks, make sure you get those first EVAs done quickly. Actually, Urban, I don't know why I thought of this, but do you think, barring thermal protection systems, do you think they could have used the ejector seats to come back down? I think they could. I think the ejector seat would have enough impulse to put you on a deorbit trajectory. So ejecting out of the Gemini capsule and then just coming down in the ejector seat. Oh my god. I don't know, is Pythos here? How much Delta V does an ejector seat have? Yeah, Alpha, yeah. It was Gemini. Yeah, exactly. I remember. I was reading something. Or maybe you told me. It was either one or the other. They wanted the Gemini capsule to feel familiar like an airplane, so they made sure that the controls for the Gemini capsule were similar to an airplane, which is actually pretty cool. Do the math! Oh, God. Suicide burn ejector seat. And actually, follow up to that question. What if you ejected and you went on a re-entry trajectory and you deployed the parachute? Would the parachute give you a low enough ballistic coefficient to actually not need a heat shield? And, oh yeah, there's Moose. Yeah, Aqualex. Moose is... Yeah. Moose is basically what we're talking about, dude. It wouldn't inflate. Well, in the higher atmosphere it would, Xeon. But yeah, I think you might be going too fast before the chute inflates, you know? Yeah, I think you'd need some kind of heat shield. Also, deploying parachutes at hypersonic speeds is frowned upon. You know what, dudes? I want to do that again. That was fun. Can we do this test one more time? Oh, Bill's on board this time. Well, Bill, you chose a heck of a day to quit sniffing glue. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Actually, you know what? I'll let Jeb count down. 38.5. Eject. Oh, perfect, man. Flame out. Awesome. It's good, man. Really good. You guys want me to make it spin? All right, let me just make sure. Shoots would have deployed. All right, all right. One more fun one before the SpaceX launch. I'll make it spin and we'll see what happens. Batteries and monoprop tanks, Squishy. Squishy. That was good, man. Real good. Okay. We're gonna make it spin. It's a good trick. So here's, you wanna make it spin? That will make it spin. Angle in 5 degrees on the wings. This is gonna get rowdy. It might explode. The other thing that I wanted to do with the capsule is take those... Hang on. Take these. And I wanted to move them in. I don't like how much they're sticking out of the heat shield. Just like that. That's fine. Perfect. All right, cool. Save. Hey, stop motion. All right. Pigzig, we might not have to. All right. Launch in-flight abort test number 3. Oh God. Oh God. Didn't spin fast enough. It needs to spin more. We need it. It's not spinning enough. We need to spin more. We need to spin more. We're trying to instill fear into our enemies, not happiness. F12. Gully, yeah, F12 will bring the menu in, dude. See, we don't want to turn these control surfaces or the stabilizers too far, because if we turn them too far, then they just cause drag. 15 degrees off kilter there. This thing is gonna go. It should really spin now. I'll make sure that the SAS is off as well. Okay. Bill's like, oh my gosh. Where's the mouse? I need to abort. Hello? There we go. I think I made it too strong, guys. I don't think it's gonna come apart. My mouse cursor went away. Synergy thought I was going to the other screen there. Right on, Doom. want to jettison at apogee there. And then pull your drogues. Isn't it backspace? So Mutter, that actually wasn't working for me before. But then again, they may have fixed it in the patch, dude, so... Yeah, see, the drogues are here to make... The drogues are here to basically slow the capsule down and stabilize it, because you don't want the capsule doing that when you deploy your main chutes. That's not good. I've noticed something here, guys. The chutes are on the same side as our center of mass bias, the drogue chutes. Now with the main chutes, that's not that big of a deal. The main chutes should even this out. But having that there fights against the way that the capsule wants to naturally fly through the air. We might end up having to... It'll stabilize more if my drogue chutes are on the outsides of these windows right here. Yeah, putting the drogues right there and right there would be better. Any surprising with the patch? Yeah, I just noticed that it really doesn't stabilize. I mean, it's not a big deal in KSP. It's not a big deal. Who cares? It's fine. When you deploy the main chutes, it evens out anyway. How'd you offset the center of mass? Batteries and monoprop tanks, dude. And a probe core. You could see it down there. Actually, if I select that, right, and then we just hold left alt, right, you can go in. I have batteries and probe cores, and the cool thing is that I built them into the floor, so they look like they belong in the capsule. Oh. See, I made it look like it was supposed to be mounted down there. Was that because of no SAS? I don't have any probe core torque on this, Ryan, at all. I don't have any. Because the capsules do, the Apollo capsule in real life did have gyros on it, but the gyros were for navigation. They weren't for, words. They weren't for attitude control. Looks like there isn't a hotkey for the abort. Yeah. Yeah, fellas, the solution would be to take the drogue chutes and put them over here. Why don't we just take the drogue chutes and put them over there? That would get the capsule to fall better. So, like, if I took the drogues and we put them in here and we move them down like this, and then we move them inwards a little bit, and we... Hey, now. You're an all-star. Because that means the heavy side of the capsule would want to fall first. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't know how I didn't really notice that before. Apologies. That's where you would want the drogues to be. I actually kind of like that. That's, but that does shift 75 kilos to the other side. And the drogues, yeah, they look like they belong there, which is cool. That's why I like putting the parachutes where they are. Doesn't the escape tower have rocket motors on it? Yeah, of course it does. I know the next question, whose story, so why did you put these on here? Well, I weighed my capsule down with more stuff. We need a little more kick getting out of the hole. Alright, let's do that. I'll take the hit. We need to do that. I want to do one more before the SpaceX launch. We'll do not a twisty test. I just want to make sure that when the drogues deploy, the capsule will stop rocking. The drogues should make the capsule stop rocking. That's what it does in real life. And it slows it down to a safe speed to deploy the main chute. It's okay, Bill. It works just fine. What's whiplash? All right, here we go. We got another SpaceX launch in 20 minutes here. SES 18 and 19. Hey buddy, how are you? I don't think you do, man. I already got 150 hours in this game. Okay, there's Max Q right there. Flame out. Cool. Tower jettison. Drogues. Come on, stop flopping. Where's Bill? I didn't put him in this time. Yeah, it looks like it doesn't really matter where they end up. You think so, Uncle X? I mean, yeah, maybe. The real capsule wobbles around like that. Real ones do that, Bing Bong. Yeah, but the drogues are supposed to stop that from happening. They're supposed to basically make sure that the capsule, when it goes to deploy the parachutes, because think about it, if the capsule's wobbling around like this and it goes to deploy the parachutes, it's gonna yank on those parachute cords more than what was designed. You could break one. That's why you need that's why you need the capsule to be as straight as possible, and that's why the drogue chutes are there. I'm almost thinking drogues just on the sides might be the best way to do this. Just straight up on the sides right there. Yeah, that's fine. That's more... It'll still weeble wobble around a little bit, but it should be okay. I mean, previously, You know what? Maybe we should put it in the same position that we had it last time. There was nothing wrong with doing that way. What I did was I put them right there. I put them. They were flanking the docking port, which probably isn't the worst spot. Actually, here, let's do that right there, right there. That'll work. Just put the drogues in right there. That will get us aligned, and that should help us stop moving the most. Just make sure. There. Yeah, there we go. That'll work. Right there. Perfect. Yeah, that's what we'll do. That's like the center of mass is down here and the drogues are up there. That's the furthest point away from the center of mass that I can put them and offset them a little bit to one side. And that offsets against our mass that we have at the bottom of this thing. Down there. See all the probe core and the RCS down there? This should be the best one. All right. One more time. Bill, you want to get on board? He's already stuck there, so. Why not 3 drogues? You only need 2. 2 are fine. Thanks, Robert. This is how I usually build, dude. I thought it would be a fun thing. Okay, here we go. We have max Q. Okay. Wait till we hit our peak altitude to jettison the escape tower. Tower jettison. Alright, let's let the capsule fall for a second. Oh yeah, Krynen for sure. Okay. Pop the drogues. Yeah, the frequency of rocking around like that is a lot less. Very nice. Very, very good. That's exactly what I want. Perfect. Does the capsule have a docking port built in now? No, that's just a docking port that I put there. Yeah, see, getting that little stuff dialed in is... Yeah, that's good, man. Most excellent. Just wish we could work on the spread angle on these damn chutes, but that's okay. What about adding cut chutes to an action group? We could. I think the game's unpaused. Not bad. Perfect. Perfect! Yeah, that was good. That was a good idea doing that. I like that. What's the ideal speed for landing on land? 8.5 meters a second feels fast, but I can't remember what I used to aim for. As long as it doesn't exceed the impact tolerance of any parts that are on the capsule, I don't care. Yeah, I mean, if the heat shield can take that hit, that's fine. Now, in reality, some capsules jettison the heat shield for this exact reason. And you got to remember that the capsule, I've been doing all of these tests with a full ablator on the heat shield. The full ablator means that the capsule's heavier than it's going to be, which means every single test that we do, it's going to come down with a lesser speed because it's not going to be as ablated. But then again, it's not going to ablate because there's no re-entry in the game yet. Launches in 15 minutes. Is the stream up? All right, perfect. All right, we got our second rocket launch of the day. On the other side of Kerbal, guys, what I'm going to do... On the other side of Kerbal, what I'm going to do is start building a Saturn 1 for this thing. So, that's coming up. But we do have, in a second here, we have the SES-18 and SES-19 Falcon 9 SpaceX mission here. So let me change up the title, and we'll do some launch coverage now. Second launch coverage of the day. When I get back, we'll keep building out a Saturn 1 for this vehicle, and we'll go from there. We'll really build it out, really do it right. I want to really get some plausible realism stuff kind of going for this challenge because we can. So, yeah.